Start to Saturday, but by and large a dry start, and most of England and Wales will have most of the day dry, but across Scotland and Northern Ireland we'll see increasing chance of some showery rain initially across the north of Scotland, but through the morning some showers developing further south too, and the showers becoming more widespread across Northern Ireland as we go through the morning also. The odd shower here and there across England and Wales, but most here will have a dry Saturday morning, and certainly for many central and eastern parts it'll stay that way as well. Perhaps a bit misty, murky, quite a bit of cloud around, but we'll see some bright or sunny spells coming through, particularly over eastern parts of England. But we do need to watch this zone of thundery showers working up into southern counties of England as we go into the afternoon. At the same time, the showers becoming more widespread over Scotland, Northern Ireland, perhaps the odd one in West Wales too. But still quite warm in the east, temperatures getting into the low 20s here, but generally it will turn cooler as we go through the long weekend. We're going to see some heavier downpours spreading up across the south on Saturday evening. Bear that in mind if you are heading out. Haven't seen much rain recently. This could, as I say, be really quite heavy, quite widespread for Sunday, but turning a bit drier as we go into Monday, but also through this weekend turning a little chillier. Goodbye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you could win our biggest prize of the year so far. You could be driving away with your very own 4-berth camper van. This Benny Van 122 could give you the perfect getaway this year. We'll also give you an incredible £25,000 in tax-free cash. Lines close on the 1st of May, so make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis in the car,
in the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong Tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I think GB News is completely unique in the way that we interact with our viewers.
Our audience aren't afraid to have their say. They want their voices heard now. and they've got a channel where that can happen.
I find more and more as I'm wandering around, people come up to me and they say, "We saw you on television." I say, "Oh yes, on what?" "On GB News."
Hello, are you the famous Sue? The whole crew with me here now. We came to celebrate.
It's our job to be the eyes and ears of the viewers.
They are part of the GBNews family, and I'm pleased to say it's a very large family.
And if people go to the time and trouble of listening and watching, then we've got to do a good job for them.
Well, I'm here right in the epicentre of the protest.
Here we go again.
You just tuned in. Where have you been?
It is raucous here tonight.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
A very, very good afternoon to you on this beautiful Friday afternoon. It's 3 p.m. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News. We're broadcasting for you all the way through until 6 p.m. We've got a cracking show, and here's what's on today's menu. Top story today, as Britain's terror threat soars to severe, GB News can today reveal that the Metropolitan Police is seeking to ban all hate marches scheduled for May the 16th. But as well as a pro-Palestine gathering, that means the Unite the Kingdom march will also be getting the chop. Is that fair, or is it yet more proof of two-tier policing? And a man who illegally came to Britain twice on small boats has been found guilty of preparing a terror-related knife attack at the Israeli embassy. They're calling him Two Dinghies Abdullah al-Badri, and he claimed he chose the path of martyrdom. But is he proof Britain's porous borders are simply unfit for purpose? And some Labour ministers and MPs have reportedly launched an Anyone But Ange campaign in an attempt to keep Angela Rayner out of number 10 amid ongoing leadership speculation. But can Rayner be stopped? And a GB News exclusive for you today. Locals in a leafy Kent town have been left furious and frightened after the Home Office announced 14 child asylum seekers are to be dumped in a converted care home there. Now, the council has assured residents the immigrants will all be aged under 16, but I'll be joined by one local, Jackie, who says we simply don't trust them. And Scots today are doing the Highland Fling after Donald Trump bowed to the King and scrapped tariffs on Scotch whisky. We'll be live from a distillery, and then the highlight of the show, we'll get into the spirits by sampling a wee dram or two on the close of today's show. And Mark White is already drooling. That's all coming up in your next hour. Welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have your company. Well, yesterday the terror threat was raised to severe, and it was announced this was because of the threat from the far right. And we thought, where? What threat from the far right? You know, the Golders Green attack didn't seem to be motivated by that. We know we have a problem with soaring anti-Semitism, but that doesn't appear to be coming from the far right, does it? But today, Sir Mark Rowley, the Met Police Commissioner, is saying that all marches perhaps will be canned on May the 16th. That includes the Unite the Kingdom march. Is it right? Is it fair? Is it proper that all marches should be banned on one day simply because a few bad apples going around London terrorising Jews mean the streets are unsafe? Is the legitimate right to protest for everybody a fair price to pay? Or is that more examples of two-tier policing? Get in touch, gbnews.com/your say is the way to do so. Or scan the QR code on your screens now. But now it's time for your headlines, and here's Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you, Martin. Good afternoon to you. It is 3 minutes past 3. Our top stories from the GB newsroom. A man has been remanded into custody after appearing in court charged with attempted murder linked to the stabbing of 2 Jewish men in North London on Wednesday. 45-year-old Essa Suleiman, a Somali-born British national, will appear at the Old Bailey on May the 15th. He's also been charged with a third count of attempted murder in relation to a separate incident earlier that day involving a man he'd known for 20 years. Britain's terror threat, meanwhile, has been raised to severe, meaning an attack is highly likely in the next 6 months. The attack in Golders Green led to protests over the policing of pro-Palestinian marches, with demonstrators taking to Downing Street yesterday to demand action. Minister for Violence Against Women and Girls, Alex Davis-Jones, says the government will act to stop unlawful protests.
Ultimately, we are a country and a nation of free speech. We have the right to peacefully protest, and I will defend that liberty to the hilt. Anyone has the right to express their views and opinions to government, to organisations about how they feel. But if you are going on these marches and you are taking part in anti-Semitic chants, you are calling for globalising the Intifada, you are wearing slogans of paragliders, for example, and glorifying terrorist organisations, then the government will act, and I would expect the police to act and arrest anyone behaving illegally.
Meanwhile, the Metropolitan Police Commissioner, Sir Mark Rowley, has asked for an extra 300 officers to fight what he's described as an anti-Semitism pandemic, saying he's very concerned about a lack of resources. He's also accused the Green Party leader, Zach Polanski, of inflaming tensions by criticising officers over their response to the Golar Screen attacks in an inaccurate and misinformed social media post.
If an eminent person steps forward into operational policing with inaccuracies and challenges things in a way that can undermine that trust, I need to speak up for those officers. I'm really grateful for the support of Britons who have, both in response to the body-worn video we released and in response to my letter, have been so effusive and assertive in their support for what those extraordinary officers did.
A failed asylum seeker has been found guilty of trying to break into London's Israeli embassy to launch a knife attack. The Kuwait-born Abdullah al-Badri was tackled by armed police after attempting to scale the embassy's fence armed with two 4-inch knives last May. The 34-year-old had only arrived in the UK on a small boat from France 16 days before the incident. It was the second time he'd entered the UK illegally by small boat in the space of 4 years. A 49-year-old woman's been charged over the 2023 Wimbledon car crash that killed two 8-year-old girls when her 4x4 crashed into a primary school. Claire Fremantle drove the Land Rover through the railings of the study prep school as pupils and their parents celebrated the last day of term. Miss Fremantle will plead not guilty to causing death and serious injury by dangerous driving. Her lawyers say there are serious questions to be answered over why the decision not to charge her was reversed. The co-founder of the clothing firm Superdry has been found guilty of raping a woman after a night out drinking. 54-year-old James Holder had been out in May 2022 when he went back to the woman's flat in Cheltenham in Gloucestershire and attacked her. Labour's landmark Renters' Rights Act comes into force today. The new laws ban no-fault evictions and make it illegal to increase rents more than once a year. Landlords will now also have to reasonably consider requests for pets. Housing, Communities and Local Government Secretary Steve Reid has welcomed the move.
Well, for far too long, renters in this country have been living in insecurity, never knowing when they're going to be kicked out of their home, never knowing when they're going to get yet another unaffordable rent rise.
New footage has emerged showing the moment an armed man stormed a gala dinner that was attended by Donald Trump in Washington, D.C. last weekend. Federal prosecutors released a video which appeared to show how the man tried to storm the White House correspondents' dinner in an alleged plot to kill the US president. Now, the CCTV video seems to show a security agent opening fire in the direction of the sprinting gunman, who's carrying a long-barreled weapon, though it's unclear if he discharges it. The King has arrived in Bermuda after a very successful 4-day state visit to the US. Charles and Camilla were waved off from Washington by President Trump. A few hours later, the royals touched down in Bermuda for a solo tour of the British Overseas Territory. Well, following their visits, Mr Trump has pledged to scrap Scottish whisky tariffs. He says their trip achieved what others could not. The move follows months of lobbying to remove the 10% tariff, with the US remaining the single largest export market for Scotland's whisky industry. And those are your headlines. More coming up for you a little later.
Taking the ups and downs in our stride. Stilts Home Lifts sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Quick look at the markets for you. A pound buys you $1.36 and €1.16. Gold will cost £3,388 per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is trading at 10,331 points.
GB News Finance Report, brought to you by Stilts Home Lifts.
Thank you, Aaron. Now we start today's show with some breaking news for you, and it's this. The Father Ted co-creator Graham Linehan, aged 57, he's had his conviction for damaging the mobile phone of transgender activist Sophia Brooks overturned following an appeal hearing at Southwark Crown Court. Quickly repeat that. Graham Linehan, the Father Ted co-creator, his conviction for damaging the mobile phone of the transgender activist Sophia Brooks, that's been overturned following a successful appeal hearing at Southwark Crown Court. Now to today's top story. Police are reportedly considering a ban on pro-Palestine marchers following the recent Golders Green attack. The government czar, Jonathan Hall, is calling for a moratorium on demonstrations, warning they paint a target on the backs of Jews. But today, GB News can reveal that the Metropolitan Police is also seeking to ban all so-called hate marches scheduled for May the 16th. Now, that could mean that the Unite the Kingdom march, the March of British Patriots, could also get the chop. Now, here's today's question. Is that fair? Or is this yet more proof of two-tiered policing? Well, I'm delighted to be joined in the studio by GB News' Home and Security Editor Mark White and the constitutional expert, the former Attorney General, Sir Michael Ellis. Gentlemen, welcome to you both. Mark, let's start with you. May I just say, excellent report from Golders Green this week, and it was so wonderful, may I say, to anyone from the Jewish community watching, for you to be approached, and they were so nice to us and thankful that we were there. And yesterday, late in the show, around about 6 p.m, when it was announced that the terror alert in Britain was going to severe, it included this sentence, due to a threat from Islamists and the far right. And I thought, well, where's the threat to the far right? That's a widespread threat. And today, we've seen that Sir Mark Rowley, the Metropolitan Police Commissioner, is doing a media round asking for all marchers to be banned on May the 16th because of far right elements. This seems to be a clampdown on all marchers. Is that fair? That the people that weren't involved in the Golders Green attacks, haven't been involved in any of the spreading terrorism across the capital, have also been caught in the crossfire?
Yeah, listen, this is it's always a highly contentious area where you have the authorities these days falling over themselves to, almost be inclusive. If they're talking about a threat, they can't just say, look, it's an Islamist threat, we've got to also shoehorn the far right in there. And I can understand a bit of where they're coming from, because they've had year after year, decades in fact, of suffering a reputational kicking for racism within the likes of the police service and other big, parts of the government and institutions and the like. So you can see why they are, ultra cautious in the language they use. But the fact is, it doesn't really explain the threat that's out there. Yes, you can argue in relative terms that the threat from the far right is growing, but actually it pales in comparison to what the threat from Islamist terrorism is. 75% of the caseload of our domestic security service, MI5, is tied up with investigating the threat from Islamist extremists. When I was in Golders Green and speaking to many members of the community, and I say, I take my hat off to them. I really do respect people in that community. They're proudly patriotic and genuinely fearful, but now very angry as well with what is going on there. But when you speak to people in the community, as I did, none of them tell me they're concerned about far-right extremism. That's always been an issue in an element, of course, that they've known about and have grown up with. But in terms of the real significant threat that they fear when their children leave the house in the morning to go off to school, it's not of a far-right attack, it's of an Islamist-inspired attack.
Which brings us to the next question. Sir Mark Rowley has said he is considering asking the Home Secretary to ban both the marches. Just to be clear, one was to mark Nakba Day, which is a pro-Palestine protest. May the 16th, this is the Unite the Kingdom march, the one organised by Tommy Robinson. Because many people go on that march that aren't supporters of far-right groups. Thousands of ordinary concerned citizens go on that, Sir Michael Ellis. My point is, Are they using a sledgehammer to crack the nuts here and banning a perfectly legitimate protest? Don't forget, United the Kingdom had at least 150,000 people attend that, but there are a mere handful, 26 arrests, and a lot of them were actually caused by the counter-protesters coming together with them. People might feel aggrieved here. They can't march under the Union flag on May the 16th because the Islamist marches are getting out of control.
Well, look, Martin, as a matter of law, the police and the Home Secretary in this case, who'll have to make the decision on a police request, if there is one, have to be conscious of appropriateness and reasonableness of their actions. So they're going to have to be able to defend such a request. Now, or is this a false equivalence? As Mark was saying, the focus of the Jewish community, certainly their concern, has been on the threat of radical Islamist attack. They are not focused, or they haven't had the recent experience of concerted far-right attack. We know MI5 have said that they have a very large part of their work is focused on the threat from Islamist attack. So is this political correctness? Is this a false equivalence? That's the question that has to be asked, because otherwise it'll be challengeable in court. The Home Secretary will have to be able to defend a position in court. If you look where the arrests have been made, if you look at the frequency of marches, the pro-Palestine hate marches have been taking place on an almost weekly basis for years. Yeah. So they are considerably more frequent. There are considerably more numbers of arrests there. The focus seems to be in that area. Now, I accept that the police are there's a huge expense to the public purse on policing these marches, and I think there's a very good case, actually, for banning altogether the pro-Palestine marches. They've certainly made their point. No one can possibly say, no one can possibly argue in a month of Sundays that they haven't had the freedom to protest and argue their case. They've done it till the cows have come home. And it's the effect of intimidating other people and stopping businesses and other people from going about their lawful business. It's now culminated in this point.
OK, and it's looking most likely like the events now will be static events, which will be much smaller. And far, far fewer people would be allowed to attend. But we're making inquiries into this story because the march organisers, to my certain knowledge, aren't aware of this clampdown, and they're not at all happy about it. But moving quickly onwards, in an unrelated incident, a man who twice entered the UK by small boat and attempted to break into the Israeli embassy in London with 2 knives has been found guilty at the Old Bailey. Mark White, an incredible story here. Tell us all about it. And an incredible detail there is this individual came into the country twice, illegally, by small boat. And he's earned the nickname Two Dinghies Abdullah.
This is the kind of story, I think, that really highlights the dangers associated with the crisis in the English Channel, where, you know, this channel has been arguing for a number of years now that the flow of undocumented, mainly men, across the English Channel, not knowing who they are and not being easily able to get the background of individuals because of that, presents a real risk. And many cases are now coming to light where people that have crossed the English Channel by a small boat or in the back of lorries have gone on to commit often very serious crimes. Now, this case involves a man called Abdullah al-Badri, I should say, 34-year-old from Kuwait. He came to go to the Two Dinghies point, which is just bizarre, to this country in 2021 on a small boat from France, then claims that at some point he got onto a lorry, hitched a ride, thinking it was going to take him to Manchester, and ended up taking him back across the English Channel to France. And then sometime later, he got on another small boat back to the UK, arriving on the 12th of April last year. And then within a fortnight, he was there walking down the street towards the Israeli embassy in Kensington and embarking on what would have been a deadly terrorist attack. When police from the Metropolitan Police Unit, the diplomatic the Parliamentary and Diplomatic Protection Command, who you see there, saw him. They grabbed him very quickly, struggled with him, searched him, found that he was carrying 2 knives, also a martyrdom note saying that he was going to die in the name of God Almighty. And you know, we heard during the trial that this was an attack that was aimed at retribution against the Israelis for the war in Gaza.
And so, Michael, this rather proves point. By the way, you know, superb kudos to the police there who dragged him from those railings and saved what could have been a real disaster.
In many countries, he would have been, quote-unquote, martyred because he would have been shot by police in other countries. But look, what better example? You've got an example there in high definition and in full colour of the threat that is posed by the unregulated introduction into this country of vast numbers of people on small boats. We have no idea who they are. We have no idea that the risk they present. Our system is so broken that even when expelled, on the few occasions that they are, they're able to come back in. We've heard that in this case, it was the second time in 4 years, and only 16 days after his arrival on the second occasion, he committed this offence for which he's now been found guilty. And frankly, I understand that the jury took 14 hours to deliberate on this. I would have thought with those pictures it would have taken 14 minutes. But anyway, the guilty verdict now stands, and what better example can we find of the threat that is posed?
And Sir Michael, you know, 2 dinghies Abdullah al-Badri in and out the country like a yo-yo, you know, unapprehended that entire time. And Mark White, when you were in Golders Green and Nigel Farage came down to see you this week, he warned about precisely this kind of thing. And it could get much worse.
Yeah, to be fair, Nigel Farage has been arguing for years on this channel and elsewhere that there is a real risk that we need to declare a national emergency because of the national security risk that these individuals pose. Not everyone, of course, but enough of them coming across the English Channel pose a risk that it is a genuine threat to our national security. And yesterday, Nigel Farage told me that he had received information from someone that he trusts impeccably, a well-placed senior source with incredible contacts, according to Nigel Farage, who told him that within recent weeks, Iranian operatives had come across the English Channel from France. Now, the fact is, we don't know if that's true. We reached out to the Home Office. We've had no comment on that. But, of course, hours after Nigel Farage made that claim on GB News, we get the news that the terror threat level is being has risen, in part due to the threat from state actors. So is there a connection? We don't know because, understandably, those in security circles don't want to put very sensitive, ultra-sensitive information necessarily out into the public realm.
It's obviously true. It would defy common sense for it not to be true. It's quite clear that a number of these individuals, they're young males of fighting age, almost all of them. One of the obvious proofs that it's not genuine refugees, because in genuine refugee cases you get elderly women, babes in arms, small children, a lot of females. Here you tend to get the vast majority are fighting age males. So what Farage has been told is no doubt common sense. But I think here, you know, the security services have indicated that Iran has been behind 20 attacks that have been foiled by MI5. What more proof do you need? Keir Starmer says what's going on in Iran is not our war. He likes to repeat that mantra. It's proof positive that actually Iran wishes to make it our business. Otherwise, why are they trying to attack us and why are they behaving in the way that they do? I'm afraid saying it ain't our war isn't good enough.
OK, Sir Michael, thank you very much. Mark, thank you very much. 2 dinghies, Abdullah al-Badri, 2 marchers cancelled, and now a lot of people feeling like, once again, 2-tiered policing. I've got some more breaking news for you here, and it's this. Zach Polanski has apologised for sharing a social media post condemning the actions of police officers who arrested the suspect in the Golders Green attack. The Green Party leader had reposted a message on X, formerly Twitter, accusing officers of, quote, repeatedly and violently kicking a mentally ill man in the head when he was already incapacitated by taser. Now, the decision to share the post had prompted huge criticism, including from the Metropolitan Police Commissioner Sir Mark Rody himself. Well, in a statement, Mr Polanski apologised, saying sharing a tweet in haste, adding that social media was not the appropriate channel for commenting on police actions. Just to repeat that breaking news line, the leader of the Green Party, Zach Polanski, has apologised for criticising the Metropolitan Police, sharing a social media post condemning the actions of police officers who arrested the suspect in the Golders Green attack. The Green Party leader had reposted a message on X accusing officers of, quotes, repeatedly and violently kicking a mentally ill man in the head when he was already incapacitated by taser, with Mr Polanski saying sharing a tweet in haste was not the appropriate channel for commenting on police actions. Now, still to come, Scots are doing the Highland Fling today after Donald Trump bowed to the King and scrapped tariffs on Scotch whisky. We'll be live from a distillery. And also next, some concerned Labour ministers and MPs have reportedly launched an Anyone But Ange campaign in an attempt to thwart Angela Rayner to keep her claws out of Number 10. Can she be stopped? That's next here on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it. Don't get this on the BBC. Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand. Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight on the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m, only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Time is 3:28 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, some desperate Labour Party ministers and members of Parliament have launched an Anyone But Ange campaign in a desperate attempt to keep Angela Rayner out of number 10. Now, it's because, of course, rumours are growing that she will soon mount a leadership challenge against Sir Keir Starmer. And this comes, as also been reported, dozens of Labour MPs are now calling on the Prime Minister to sack Ed Miliband over his refusal to allow licences for new oil drilling in the North Sea. The knives have well and truly been drawn, and I'm joined in the studio by GB News' political correspondent Olivia Utley. Olivia, it's all kicking off. Labour are revolting.
Well, we've been hearing that there are the leadership works in the works for a while now. Angela Rayner is definitely ambitious. She's made no secret of the fact in the past that she would like to be Prime Minister one day. She's got her memoir coming out this year. She definitely has her backers. There are lots of people who think she's very charismatic, who think she's a very effective dispatch box performer. When you compare her performances as Deputy Prime Minister to David Lammy's, perhaps you could say you see what they mean. You could also argue that she is quite an effective legislator. She managed to get the Workers' Rights Bill through Parliament, a very, very contentious piece of legislation, when she was a minister. That said, there are plenty of people who don't like her at all. There was a story in the Mail saying that she was inappropriately drunk the other day in Westminster. There are also those who worry about her politics, who think that she will steer the Labour Party further to the left. And actually, when you look at polling, although there's this idea that she's popular, if you actually look at the polling, it doesn't really ring true. Only 15% of the public thinks that she would make a better Prime Minister than Keir Starmer, which, given Keir Starmer's very, very low popularity ratings at the moment, is kind of astonishing. So that means there is this anti-Rayner group. I've heard about this, rumours about this for a long time now. MPs who basically think if there is a leadership contest, it has got to be anyone but her. Those MPs are really, really anxious because their thinking in Westminster is that if Angela Rayner gets into the final two are decided among MPs, and then once it gets to the final two, it goes to the members of the Labour Party. Now, among the members of the Labour Party, not the parliamentary party, the grassroots members at home, Angela Rayner is very popular indeed. So if she were to get into that final two, then she would almost undoubtedly win. The effort, then, is to keep her out of the final two. Who's being talked about to do that? Well, Wes Streeting is an obvious contender, very savvy media performer. Some people say that he, too, was too close to Mandelson, and that could be difficult for him. Ed Miliband is another option. Again, the Parliamentary Labour Party not too sure about him because he would, again, steer the party to the left. He's the net zero zealot. It'll be fascinating to see how this plays out, but certainly Labour MPs are getting very nervous about the prospects of an Angela Rayner-led government.
And the plot to get rid of Ed Miliband, they've called him a word I can't really use on national television, but I'll do a version, bat poo crazy, they said about him. Yesterday, Ed Miliband was out to ban people's tumble dryers. And, you know, a lot of people are saying this is a step too far for a net zero zealot, but as you say, forget about the general public. The grassroots really like the guy, but they're trying to take him out as well.
The grassroots really like Ed Miliband. Really interesting, this. I think part of, if you look at the demographics of the Labour Party grassroots members, a lot of them are actually too young to remember Ed Miliband being defeated in a general election. People like Labour Party members. I think it definitely has.
They can't remember the Ed Stone.
They can't remember the Ed Stone, and now they think that he is, you know, the net zero messiah. There was a rumour, which I heard lots of times in Westminster, that Keir Starmer attempted to sack Ed Miliband in his last reshuffle, but essentially Keir Starmer didn't have the political power to do that. Ed Miliband pushed back and Keir Starmer had to accept it. But certainly there are divisions. There is a lack of liking, I think we can go as far as to say, between Rachel Reeves in the Treasury and Ed Miliband as the Energy Secretary. They disagree over net zero. Net zero can be some of the net zero policies which Ed Miliband has pushed forward have been quite damaging for the economy. And there are certainly those in Labour who would like to see him pushed out in a more sort of centrist, perhaps to the right of the Labour Party, a Wes Streeting figure brought in to the Energy Department. There are rumours that Keir Starmer will do a big reshuffle after the May elections to try and move the story on if the results are as catastrophic as some of the polling is predicting. Rumours even that he could sack Rachel Reeves. That was brought up in Parliament. I went to the lobby meeting afterwards. The Prime Minister's spokesman said that wasn't on the table. But we've heard that before. Keir Starmer often has total confidence in someone until moments before he sacks them.
Yeah.
So let's see what happens after the general election. I think there will be some kind of reshuffle because it's a good way for the Prime Minister to try and move that story on.
I have full confidence in the manager, says the director of football, and then they go off the top of the car park. Rats in a sack is a phrase that leaps to mind. Olivia, superb. Thank you very, very much for joining us in the studio today on this beautiful Friday afternoon. Olivia Utley. Now, there's lots more still to come between now and 4 p.m, including Scots. They're doing the Highland Fling today after Donald Trump bowed to the King and scrapped tariffs on Scotch whisky. We'll be live from a distillery. Looking forward to that. First, though, here's your latest news headlines with Aaron Armstrong.
Thanks, Martin. Good afternoon to you. It's 34 minutes past 3. Our headlines. A Somali-born British national has appeared in court charged with attempted murder after 2 Jewish men were stabbed in Golders Green on Wednesday. 45-year-old Essa Suleiman was remanded into custody and will appear at the Old Bailey on May the 15th. Meanwhile, the Green Party leader, Zach Polanski, has apologised for sharing a tweet in which she criticised the police arresting the suspect following the stabbings in Golders Green. He has said everyone in leadership has a responsibility for lowering the temperature at a time of such tension. A failed asylum seeker has been found guilty of trying to break into London's Israeli embassy to launch a knife attack. The Kuwait-born 34-year-old Abdullah al-Badri, who was armed with 2 4-inch knives, was tackled by police attempting to scale the fence last May. The driver of a car which crashed into the grounds of a school in southwest London, killing 2 8-year-old girls, has been charged with death by dangerous driving. Claire Fremantle originally faced no charges for the incident in 2023 when she drove through the railings of the school in Wimbledon. And London's landmark Renters' Rights Act comes into force today. The new laws ban no-fault evictions and make it illegal to increase rents more than once a year. And that's it. You're up to date for the moment. I'll be back with more at 4.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, the long weekend is almost here. Welcome along to your latest weather update from the Met Office on GB News. For many, it'll be a dry and a bright day tomorrow. There will be a few showers around, particularly across parts of the north, and then later in the day, some heavier rain coming up from the south. We've replaced high pressure with low pressure. Been gradually increasing the cloud from the west through the day today. It's still pretty warm out there across eastern areas. 1 or 2 thunderstorms are rumbling away, and some showery rain for northern England and eastern Scotland, clearing out into the North Sea. The potential for 1 or 2 heavy showers through the night across Kent and parts of East Anglia too, but many places will become dry overnight and much, much milder than many nights have been through this week, with some towns and cities staying in double digits. A bit of a grey start to Saturday, but by and large a dry start, and most of England and Wales will have most of the day dry, but across Scotland and Northern Ireland we'll see increasing chance of some showery rain, initially across the north of Scotland, but through the morning some showers developing further south too, and the showers becoming more widespread across Northern Ireland as we go through the morning also. The odd shower here and there across England and Wales, but most here will have a dry Saturday morning, and certainly for many central and eastern parts it'll stay that way as well. Perhaps a bit misty, murky, quite a bit of cloud around, but we'll see some bright or sunny spells coming through, particularly over eastern parts of England. But we do need to watch this zone of thundery showers working up into southern counties of England as we go into the afternoon. At the same time, the showers becoming more widespread over Scotland, Northern Ireland, perhaps the odd one in West Wales too. But still quite warm in the east, temperatures getting into the low 20s here, but generally it will turn cooler as we go through the long weekend. We're going to see some heavier downpours spreading up across the south on Saturday evening. Bear that in mind if you are heading out. Haven't seen much rain recently. This could, as I say, be really quite heavy, quite widespread for Sunday, but turning a bit drier as we go into Monday, but also through this weekend turning a little chillier. Goodbye.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News each and every week.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The A82 is restricted southbound at Old Kilpatrick due to emergency roadworks. On the M11 southbound between Junction 10 and Junction 8, one lane is closed, causing 10-minute delays. The M25 anti-clockwise in Kent faces 20-minute delays. The A50 westbound near Blythe Bridge East has 2-hour delays. The M62 westbound between Junction 22 and Junction 21 has one lane closed. All lanes on the A1 northbound in Rutland are closed with 10-minute delays. And on the trains, Chiltern Railways are disrupted at Birmingham Moor Street. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Buckle up, Britain. It's going to be quite a ride. Votes are being cast and counts are gearing up in elections across the country. Everything could change. From the first result to the inevitable aftermath. We'll be across it all. Vote 2026, the people decide. From 11 p.m. Thursday night, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Does Chopper need a coffee?
Chopper always needs a coffee. Welcome back. It is 3:39. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, Donald Trump has pledged to scrap Scottish whisky tariffs after the King and Queen's state visit to the United States. He said their trip achieved what others could not, and the move follows months of lobbying to remove that 10% tariff, with the United States remaining the single largest export market, of course, for Scotland's Highland Mist. Let's speak now to our reporter, Tony Maguire from Scotland. Tony, how are you doing? I bet you, mate, they've got to be in absolute, pardon the pun, high spirits up there in Scotland. Fantastic news.
Yeah, you're right, Martin. This has very well been received right across the country today. And, you know, who could blame everybody? We have the numbers to show just how important whisky is in a trading partner such as America. America is whisky's biggest trading export partner. In fact, it's worth about £1 billion a year. And indeed, we've also got the numbers that show what these tariffs do. That 10% tariff obviously has been going on now for about a year, and in fact the whisky, if you remember back between 2009 and 2021, there was a 25% tariff, you know, and that, well, the Scotch whisky industry was basically hemorrhaging about £1 million a day during that period. But it is Scotland's national drink, and it is Britain's biggest food and drink export, so of course this has been warmly received up and down the country today, nowhere more so arguably than of course by the Scotch Whisky and Association. Now, President Trump, as he made his post to Truth Social last night, he said that people have wanted this for a long time. There's been great inter-country trade, especially with having to do with the wooden barrels used. The King and Queen got me to do something no one else was able to do without hardly even asking. Well, if all those months of trade negotiations was getting the ball up the park, it sounds very much like the King and Queen are being held responsible for putting the ball in the back of the net. And of course the Scotch Whisky Association are breathing a massive sigh of relief today. And I spoke to the new international director Ian Duddy about just how important this news is on both sides of the Atlantic.
So this is great news for the industry. We're really pleased to see this reduction in tariffs. This will have a significant impact on the Scotch whisky industry and sector. The 10% tariffs that have been in place for a year by the US were costing the industry around £4 million a week. This deal is important for both sides of the Atlantic, not just for the US hospitality industry, who are great consumers of Scotch, but also in Louisiana and Kentucky, who export their used casks to Scotland. Demand had petered off because of these tariffs, so the reduction in tariffs should increase the demand for those casks that are coming from the US.
Okay, Martin, now you and I have been doing this dance for a long time on Whisky Stories, and if I stop talking and you say go home and have a dram, and I smile and nod even though I'm going straight to my bed after a hard day's work. But today I've come prepared, Martin, because obviously this is a big occasion, and this isn't just any whisky, this is actually Rosebank Distillery, where we've been today, the 31-year-old. And in fact, in San Francisco last year at the San Francisco World Spirits Competition, it was named the world's best whisky. whisky, and it sat sleeping in a warehouse somewhere completely undisturbed until a 4-year restoration project at this distillery brought it back. It was bottled, sold, and it won that competition. That caught the attention of our monarch, and King Charles asked the distillery over to the Palace of Holyrood House in Edinburgh for a wee tasting. And then, at least this is the way the distillery tells it, before you know it, he's on a plane, he's talking to the President, and our tariffs on Scotch whisky has been dropped. So if I'm going to be drinking anything tonight, I'm going to be drinking this with royal approval.
Now, at this point, Tony Maguire, this was Jack Carson in a pub. I'd make him down his pint in one. Now, I'm not going to make you down that whisky in one because you might be about to get behind a wheel. Remember, don't drink and drive. You might spill it. That's an ancient joke. Apologies. Never drink and drive. Later in the show, I've got Dawn Davis, the buying director of the Whisky Exchange, in the studio. Me and Malt White. Malt White, a Scotsman. We're going to have a whisky sampling session in the studio. Tony, enjoy that wee dram. You deserve it, my friend. Superb news for Scotland. Thank you very, very much indeed, my friend. Now, coming up next, the RAF has said that Britain is on high alert and ready to defend the Falkland Islands at a moment's notice following a row with the White House over those islands. That's next, but before that, if you're in search of some holiday sun, and here is the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Plenty of sunshine over the Canaries this weekend. Some heavy showers over northern Spain and some big downpours inland across Turkey also. We'll also see the potential for 1 or 2 showers heading to the Algarve on Saturday. The Balearics probably dry and sunny at this stage. Lots of sunshine for Italy on Saturday and for most of the Greek islands as well. There's that heavy rain across Turkey. That is pulling away. We'll see the cloud increasing in Rome through the course of the weekend and some showers continuing in Barcelona.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
As we honour the heroic Australian and New Zealand combatants of bygone wars, the Royal British Legion Scotland welcomed the family of one standout serviceman to Edinburgh. Unmatched in bravery and gilded in valour, New Zealander Clive Franklin Collett was a vanguard of our skies. The test pilot turned flight commander earned the Military Cross and Bar after just 2 months of aerial combat for leading his formation with great skill and taking out 5 enemy aircraft in 1 week with great dash and determination. He notably performed the first parachute jump of any British or Commonwealth soldier from an aircraft in 1916. The Royal British Legion Scotland first celebrated Anzac Day in 1927. Events organiser Brian Ward explains the most recent chapter in the Scottish Legion's century of celebration.
We first started doing Anzac Day services at the Scottish National War Memorial in 1927, so it's one of our longest running events. More recently, we have started doing the events in Comley Bank Cemetery. We did a broadcast with the Australian Broadcasting Corporation to ask for the families of the deceased that's inside Comley Bank Cemetery to tune into. And of the 16, I believe we got 8 families.
Mandy says her pride goes beyond her grandfather's medals and commendations.
I guess it's been a deep pride in who he was, not the fact that about medals or things like that, but the courage, the bravery, the attempt at a parachute jump, the first person to do a parachute jump for Britain in front of King George V and Queen Mary, and I thought, that's pretty special.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Time is 3:48 with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News on this beautiful Friday afternoon. Now, just a reminder of that breaking news we brought to you earlier, of course, following on from that attack in Golders Green and the hoo-ha that followed on social media. The leader of the Green Party, Zach Polanski, he's apologised for sharing a tweet which criticised the police arresting the suspect following those stabbings in Golders Green. Now, recall, Mr Polanski said, everyone in leadership has a responsibility for lowering the temperature at a time of such tension. Now, this was off the back, of course, of when Mr Polanski claimed that the suspect in the case appeared to be mentally ill. There were videos of the arrest on social media, 2 officers whom the Metropolitan Police have backed. Sir Mark Rowley was very clear when his rebuttal was published late yesterday afternoon, that he was standing by his officers' actions in difficult and testing circumstances in the heat of the moment. There was a social media pile-on against Sir Mark Rowley, against the Metropolitan Police. Some people believe that the officers acted inappropriately. It was pointed out, of course, at that point they didn't know that the suspect may have been having an explosive device. They did their job under high duress. And now Mr Polanski, he's apologised today, saying everyone in leadership has a responsibility for lowering the temperature at a time of such tension. Moving on to our next story now. Britain is reportedly on high alert and ready to defend the Falkland Islands. Now, that's according to the Chief of the Royal Air Force. Sir Harve Smith said Britain's defence of the territory was non-negotiable, with 4 Typhoon fighter jets currently stationed on the islands. But will that be enough, as tensions are high in the Falkland Islands? Well, let's now speak with the former Falklands War Platoon Commander, Major General Chip Chapman. Chip, my favourite terror man. It's always a pleasure to see you on the show, my friend. There's been a huge amount of concern amongst our viewers, amongst veterans, and of course Falkland Islanders themselves following Donald Trump's throwaway comments, perhaps, that the Falklands' future was up for negotiation. Now we hear the RAF is on standby. How concerned should we be?
Well, the first part, it was a Pentagon memo. It wasn't a policy document. So I think you can say that it doesn't have as much legitimacy as we might think, though it should be concerning, because one of the things we want with America at all times is cooperative security with allies. The second part, do we have the capability to defend the islands? We actually have a rational plan for war should we need to go there. It's completely different than 1982 in terms of the vital ground, the ground of such importance that we need to hold it today is RAF Mount Pleasant. That is defended by quite a widespread air defence radar pattern, which would go all the way to the Argentinian mainland, along with the Typhoon air defence aircraft. But the real difference from 1982, apart from that part of the capability, is that we now would have the indicators and warnings, the intelligence gathering, which we didn't have in 1982 when the Joint Intelligence Committee, the highest committee in the UK, had the Falklands at priority 4 below Belize, Gibraltar and Hong Kong, for example. So we should always be ready to defend it. It is in a QRA, quick reaction alert posture, in the way the RAF is at both Coningsby and Lossiemouth to defend British airspace against the Russians, and indeed in the way that they do that when they're in a NATO air policing mode in either Romania or in the Baltic countries. So we should always be ready. It is in really a fight tonight posture from an air defence and air posture in the Falklands. So don't panic.
And Chip, what I've realised, speaking to people from the community, and we'll be joined by Simon Weston later on the show, is if anything, it's strengthened the resolve, the sovereignty of the Falkland Islands. They feel more British than ever.
Well, they do, and we have to remember that there was a referendum in 2013 where 99.8% voted in favour of continuance of a British overseas territory. And the whole thing about war, which we're seeing both in Ukraine and Iran really at the moment, is, you know, breaking lots of stuff on the ground and enemies' equipment is not the same as breaking their will. And if you don't break their will, you don't collapse their power of resistance. The power of resistance of both the British military and the Falkland Islanders is very high to defend the Falklands.
OK, thank you as ever for your expertise and your company, Major General Chip Chapman. It's always a pleasure to have your company on the show. Thank you very much indeed. Mind how you go. And plenty more to come in the next hour, including a story which we think we're breaking here on GB News. The Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police today, Sir Mark Rowley, announced in the media to no great fanfare he was considering asking for the marches on May the 16th to be banned in London as a result of the Golders Green attack. Now, one of those marches is the pro-Palestine march. The other march is the Unite the Kingdom march. Is it fair that both marches should be banned because of what happened in Golders Green? Is that a fair response? Or is it yet more example of two-tiered policing where British patriots are at the back of the queue? That's next on GB News, Britain's News Channel.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, the long weekend is almost here. Welcome along to your latest weather update from the Met Office on GB News. For many, it'll be a dry and a bright day tomorrow. There will be a few showers around, particularly across parts of the north, and then later in the day, some heavier rain coming up from the south. We've replaced high pressure with low pressure, been gradually increasing the cloud from the west through the day today. It's still pretty warm out there across eastern areas. One or two thunderstorms rumbling away, and some showery rain for northern England and eastern Scotland, clearing out into the North Sea. The potential for one or two heavy showers through the night across Kent and parts of East Anglia too, but many places will become dry overnight and much milder than many nights have been through this week, with some towns and cities staying in double digits. A bit of a grey start to Saturday, but by and large a dry start, and most of England and Wales will have most of the day dry, but across Scotland and Northern Ireland we'll see increasing chance of some showery rain, initially across the north of Scotland, but through the morning some showers developing further south too, and the showers becoming more widespread across Northern Ireland as we go through the morning also. The odd shower here and there across England and Wales, but most here will have a dry Saturday morning, and certainly for many central and eastern parts it'll stay that way as well. Perhaps a bit misty, murky, quite a bit of cloud around, but we'll see some bright or sunny spells coming through, particularly over eastern parts of England. But we do need to watch this zone of thundery showers working up into southern counties of England as we go into the afternoon. At the same time, the showers becoming more widespread over Scotland, Northern Ireland, perhaps the odd one in West Wales too. But still quite warm in the east, temperatures getting into the low 20s here, but generally it will turn cooler as we go through the long weekend. We're going to see some heavier downpours spreading up across the south on Saturday evening. Bear that in mind if you are heading out. Haven't seen much rain recently. This could, as I say, be really quite heavy, quite widespread for Sunday, but turning a bit drier as we go into Monday, but also through this weekend turning a little chillier. Goodbye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News every week.
You're not only watching and listening to our programmes, you're becoming part of them too.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The A48 westbound is congested between Crosshands and Failgastel due to an incident. The A50 southbound in Rutland is closed between junctions A151 and A60, causing 40-minute delays. The M25 anti-clockwise in Kent has delays up to 20 minutes. On the A50 westbound near Blythe Bridge East, Staffordshire, 2-hour delays continue. A broken-down vehicle blocks the M11 southbound between junctions 10 and 8 in Essex. And on the trains, Chiltern Railways face disruption at Birmingham Moor Street, and cross-country is affected between York and Northallerton. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Very, very good afternoon to you on this beautiful Friday afternoon. It's 4 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News, broadcasting for you until 6 p.m. Here's what's coming up on today's action-packed show. Top story today, as Britain's terror threat soars to severe, GB News can today reveal that the Metropolitan Police is seeking to ban all so-called hate marches scheduled for May the 16th. But as well as a pro-Palestine gathering, that could mean the Unite the Kingdom march also gets the chop. Is that fair, or is it yet more proof of two-tiered policing? And an astonishing story here. A man who illegally came to Britain twice on small boats has been found guilty of preparing a terror-related knife attack at the Israeli embassy. So-called two dinghies Abdullah al-Badri, he claimed he chose the path of martyrdom, but is he proof that Britain's porous borders are simply unfit for purpose? And some desperate Labour Party ministers and MPs have reportedly launched an anyone but Ange campaign in a desperate attempt to keep Angela Rayner out of number 10 amid ongoing leadership speculation. But here's the question, can Rayner be stopped? And a GB News exclusive for you this afternoon, as locals in a leafy Kent town have been left furious and frightened after the Home Office announced 14 child asylum seekers are to be dumped in a converted care home there. Now, the council has assured residents the immigrants will all be under 16 years of age, but I'll be joined by a local Jackie who says we simply don't trust them. We don't know how old these people are. And that's all coming up in your next hour. Welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have your company. You want proof that the lunatics have taken over the asylum system? Look at the case of two dinghies. Abdullah al-Badri came into Britain not once but twice on small dinghies. He accidentally went out of England on the back of a small lorry he thought was going to Manchester but went back to France. It's a farce, except a farce that could have had a disastrous ending because al-Badri scaled the wall at the Israeli embassy, was apprehended by two brave coppers, and today was found guilty for preparing a terror act with two knives. But we don't know who walks among us on the week when Nigel Farage warned Iranians are sending terrorists over on small boats, and another attack in Golders Green. Are we simply losing control of our country? And does that justify the Metropolitan Police clamping down on all marchers on May the 16th. A pro-Palestine march is deemed not fit to go ahead, but could also, a price to be paid, mean that the Unite the Kingdom march is also sacrificed. A march attended last time by hundreds of thousands of British patriots. Get in touch, gbnews.com/your say is the way to do so, or scan the QR code on your screens now. But now here's your headlines with Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you, Martin. 3 minutes past 4. Our headlines. A man has been remanded into custody after appearing in court charged with attempted murder linked to the stabbing of 2 Jewish men in North London on Wednesday. 45-year-old Essa Suleiman, a Somali-born British national, will appear at the Old Bailey on May the 15th. He's also been charged with a third count of attempted murder in relation to a separate incident earlier that day involving a man he's known for 20 years. Britain's terror threat level has been raised to severe, meaning an attack is highly likely in the next 6 months. The attacks led to protests over the policing of pro-Palestinian marches, with demonstrators taking to Downing Street yesterday to demand action. Minister for Violence Against Women and Girls, Alex Davis-Jones, says the government will act to stop unlawful protests.
Ultimately, we are a country and a nation of free speech. We have the right to peacefully protest, and I will defend that liberty to the hilt. Anyone has the right to express their views and opinions to government, to organisations about how they feel. But if you are going on these marches and you are taking part in anti-Semitic chants, you are calling for globalising the Intifada, you are wearing slogans of paragliders, for example, and glorifying terrorist organisations, then the government will act, and I would expect the police to act and arrest anyone behaving illegally.
The Green Party leader, Zach Polansky, has apologised for sharing a social media post which criticised the police office for their conduct while arresting the suspect following the stabbings in Golders Green. The post accused officers of repeatedly and violently kicking a mentally ill man in the head when he was already incapacitated by a taser. Well, Mr Polansky's apologised for sharing the tweet in haste, he said, saying everyone in leadership has a responsibility for lowering the temperature at a time of such tension. His initial response has been criticised by the head of the Met Police, Sir Mark Rowley, who said the Greens leader comments has undermined the confidence of officers to deal with dangerous people.
If an eminent person steps forward into operational policing with inaccuracies and challenges things in a way that can undermine that trust, I need to speak up for those officers. I'm really grateful for the support of Britons who have, both in response to the body-worn video we released and in response to my letter, have been so effusive and assertive in their support for what those extraordinary officers did.
A failed asylum seeker has been found guilty of trying to break into London's Israeli embassy to launch a knife attack. The Kuwait-born Abdullah al-Badri was tackled by armed police after attempting to scale the embassy's fence armed with 2 4-inch knives last May. The 34-year-old had only arrived in the UK on a small boat from France 16 days before the incident. It was the second time he had entered the UK illegally by small boat in the space of 4 years. A 49-year-old woman's been charged over the 2023 Wimbledon car crash that killed 2 8-year-old girls when her vehicle crashed into a primary school. Claire Fremantle drove the car that went through the railings of the study prep school as pupils and their parents were celebrating a garden party on the last day of term. Miss Fremantle will plead not guilty to causing death and serious injury by dangerous driving. Her lawyers say there are serious questions to be answered over why the decision not to charge her was reversed. The co-founder of the clothing firm Superdry is facing jail after being found guilty of raping a woman after a night out drinking. 54-year-old James Holder had been out on May the 22nd, 2022, when he went back to the woman's flat in Cheltenham, Gloucestershire, and attacked her. New footage has emerged showing the moment an armed man stormed Donald Trump's dinner in Washington. Federal prosecutors have released a video which appears to show how the suspect tried to storm the White House correspondents' dinner in an alleged plot to kill the US president. The CCTV footage appears to show a security agent opening fire in the direction of the sprinting gunman who's carrying a long-barreled weapon, although it's unclear if he discharges it. The King has arrived in Bermuda after a very successful 4-day visit to the United States. Charles and Camilla were waved off from Washington by President Trump. A few hours later, His Majesty touched down in Bermuda. He is there for a solo tour of the British Overseas Territory. And following their visit to the US, Donald Trump has pledged to scrap Scottish whisky tariffs. He said the Royals achieved what others could not. The move follows months of lobbying to remove the 10% tax, with the US remaining the single largest export market for Scotland's whisky industry. And you're fully up to date with the news here on GB News.
Taking the ups and downs in our stride. Stilts Home Lifts sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Quick look at the markets. The pound buys you $1.35 and €1.15. Gold will cost £3,554 per ounce. And the FTSE 100 trading at 10,596 points.
GB News Finance Report, brought to you by Stilts Home Lifts.
Thank you, Aaron. An astonishing story breaking today. It's this: a man who twice entered the United Kingdom by small boat. Well, he also attempted to break into the Israeli embassy in London with 2 knives. He's been found guilty today at the Old Bailey. Mark White, it's a simply incredible story. The tale, this guy has earned the nickname now, 2 Dinghies. Abdullah al-Badri came into the country twice, went out once on the back of a lorry.
You know, it's almost comical, but of course for the fact that this is deadly serious. This is a man that had murder on his mind, that was trying to break into the Israeli embassy to kill as many people as he could in the name of Gaza. But you're right, he came over to the UK in 2021 on a small boat. Then at some point, he tells the authorities that he got a ride in a lorry, hitched a ride in a lorry that he thought was taking him to Manchester, but ended up taking him back across the Channel to France. Then at some point in the future, hapless al-Badri manages to get himself back on a small boat across the English Channel and into the custody, initially, of Borders and Immigration. He's put into the asylum system, but isn't given accommodation because of some issue with the fact he'd come already. So he was living homeless for a day or 2 or 3. And this is him on the 28th of April last year, trying to break in to the Israeli embassy, climb the perimeter fence. Thankfully, those officers from the Met's Parliamentary and Diplomatic Command, those officers that are armed, that deal with guarding the VIP areas, the embassy buildings, the likes of the parliamentary buildings, Downing Street and the like. They're used to a high threat around there. But this man, when they searched him, had 2 knives. He had a martyrdom note where he said that he was going to sacrifice his life in the name of the Almighty God. And in the trial, 2-week trial, Martin, we heard that what he was motivated by was the conflict in Gaza and retribution for the Israelis for bombings in Gaza.
He was found guilty today. He's awaiting sentencing. But it underlines, does it not, Mark White, this notion that we've been repeatedly having this week. We have simply no idea who is amongst us in this country. You spoke with Nigel Farage in Golders Green, who said he has intel that the Iranians are specifically sending terrorists our way. And Mark White, you've got a breaking news story for us right now. Hot off the press, there's more action in the channel right now as we speak.
Yeah, our producer in Kent, Chris, who's always on duty monitoring the situation across the English Channel, has just confirmed that the Border Force Ranger vessel Ranger has come into Dover Harbour with another 55 migrants on board that have crossed the English Channel in a dinghy this afternoon. He said more boat launches are expected later this afternoon into the evening, and the weather is going to continue favourable for crossings throughout the day tomorrow and into the first part of Sunday before it begins to turn again. So as sure as night follows day, as we say so many times in this channel, when the weather eases, they cross the channel. And of course, the big issue we've witnessed just recently is the move up into Belgium. With just a few weeks ago, the biggest number of migrants launching from beaches in Belgium since this crisis began, up to 300 of them leaving Belgian beaches. And that was on a day when 600 crossed, so half of them were leaving from Belgian beaches. And then last weekend, we had another 3 days where we had crossings as well. But in those 3 days, they all crossed from the opposite end of the coast, away down below Boulogne-sur-Mer to the Somme, as far down as the Somme. And that meant that these boats were actually in the water for some 15 hours before they actually then reached UK waters. And as is custom and practice, they're picked up by British authorities and taken straight to Dover Harbour.
And there we go. Breaking news there from Mark White. More dinghies inbound and looking like there'll be at least 2 more days of it. They can't stop the boats. They can't smash the gangs. There's a feeling of inevitability about all of this. But now, in the latest clampdown, police are reportedly considering a ban on pro-Palestine marchers following the recent Golders Green attack. The government czar, Jonathan Hall, is calling for a moratorium on demonstrations, warning they paint a target on the backs of Jews. But today, GB News can also reveal that the Metropolitan Police is seeking to ban all so-called hate marches scheduled for May the 16th. Now, that could mean that the Unites the Kingdom march, it was attended by over 150,000 patriots last time, that could also get the chop. Now, is that fair? Why should that march get the chop? Because of surging anti-Semitism on our streets. Is this yet more proof of two-tiered policing? Well, I'm delighted now to be joined with the former government advisor on political violence, Lord Walney. Lord Walney, it's always a pleasure to have your company. Thank you very much for joining us on this beautiful Friday afternoon. My question to you is simple. In clamping down on all of the marches, that's what we're hearing, the Police Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police, Sir Mark Rowley, is going to approach Shabana Mahmood to close down all of the marches on May the 16th. That includes the Unite the Kingdom march. Now, why should that one be closed down? Because we can't stop anti-Semitism on our streets.
Well, it will seem very unfair, but the criteria on which the police are going to need to be operating is the Public Order Act, on which the terms for advising that a march be stopped is whether there is likely to be serious public disorder because of it. Now, I think that is far too tightly drawn, and I think that the hate marches, which are fueling to at least some level this terror campaign on our streets targeting British Jews, there should be a way of stopping them generally. But what you will have, I think, if you've got the Unite the Kingdom march alongside the pro-Gaza march, is a greatly increased risk that there will be confrontations and disorder from the two sides clashing. And so in that scenario, I can see that the Met may feel that the only course of action that they've got is if they're going to step in, then they need to step in on both.
But there's a way that this could be sorted out. Don't forget, the last time, there were at least 150,000 at the United the Kingdom march. There were only a handful of arrests, 26. And I believe that's because the two sides erroneously were funneled together at one point, causing a flashpoint with Stand Up to Racism. There are far more arrests on the pro-Palestine marches now. There's been as many as 890. At the last one.
Yeah, but look, I mean...
So surely it's not beyond the wit of the Metropolitan Police to have two protests on separate days and keep them apart. They manage that every weekend with football fans. Why ban them all together?
Well, I think that is a really good question, and it actually shows the limitations of this, of the current public order framework, of the laws which govern protest, because the police cannot, at the moment, say, yes, you can have the march, but on a different day. That would constitute banning the march, and the criteria for that is very narrow. So there is nothing to stop either of those organisations if they are told no on a particular day. There's nothing to stop them from applying for another day. But the point of this is, for me, that you should be able to say that there is these hate-infested pro-Gaza marches with all the criminality that is on display in them, which in the ways in which they are at some level fueling this tide of hatred towards Jewish people. You should be able to say no to these marches because of the damage that they're doing to this country, without having to see it through the very narrow lens of, is it likely to incite a riot on the day?
And that's the point a lot of people were saying here, Lord Daubney, is if there's a clearer case to be made for banning the pro-Palestine marches. Look at what's happened in Golders Green this week. Look at the surging anti-Semitism. Why should the price, almost the appeasement be, if you like, will appease those people by also banning the United Kingdom march? It feels like it's been caught in the crossfire of political correctness.
It will do that, I can understand, but there's also a common sense way of looking at this. That if you're an average Londoner, you probably don't want to be out in a city which has got this large-scale march on one side and the Gaza march on the other. I mean, it is asking for trouble to put the two of them together. And yes, I think there should be the flexibility within our public order framework to be able to say it's just not sensible to have these running alongside each other. There's only so much we can do to kind of keep the routes separate. There's going to be clashes, and therefore one goes ahead on one day or one goes ahead on the other. And in the case of the Gaza marches, there is the wider question that it's proved completely impossible for the police, well, the police have been unable so far to be able to stop the support for terrorist organizations, the chants like globalize the Intifada, which basically means take the war on Jews and targeting of Jews that's happening in Israel and the Middle East and put it onto the streets of London. They don't have the ability to stop those marches on that base. That is not right, and the government needs to accept that those of us who've been calling for the law to be strengthened over recent years have got a point, and the time to act is now very urgent, given the scale of the crisis being inflicted in parts of Jewish communities in North London.
Thank you very much. I think many people concur with that. Your expertise, always appreciated, Lord Daubney. Thank you very much indeed for joining us on the show today. Well, following the incident in Golders Green, the UK's terror threat level has now been raised to severe, meaning it is now highly likely there could be an attack on British soil. Let's now speak with the national security and counter-terrorism expert, Anthony Gleeson. Anthony, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have your company. I want to continue that theme, if I could, with you, Anthony, because yesterday when the terror alert was raised, about 5 to 6 in the evening, it said because of surging Islamism and the far right. And we were like going, what far right? Where's the comparative threat from the far right? We know the vast majority of terror threats in this country are Islamist terror threats. And my point to you is this: is the far right being banded into this to placate the far left?
Well, it's possible, but I don't believe it is the case, unfortunately. What concerns us is violent extremism and people inciting others to commit acts of violent extremism. That has to be evidence-based. And, a march of UK patriots with no history of violence and no history of stirring up of violence and inciting others to commit violence, that probably should not be banned. When you turn to Palestine Action, however, we are looking at a long history of incitement to violence. And we are actually right now in a very dark place where our national security is concerned. We're not exactly at war. We're not being exactly invaded by foreign armies. But when we have Jewish people who are being attacked. Of course, we've got to be careful what we say about this. This is a matter of the law. But where we have Jewish people being attacked simply because they are Jews on the streets of Britain, that suggests that we have reached a situation in the UK right now where fairly drastic and stringent measures are required in order to ensure that civil society does not collapse altogether.
Anthony, I agree with you, but my point is very clear. Mark White was at Golders Green speaking with the Jewish community there. Yeah. You can see on your screen all week. They're not afraid of the far right. They're afraid of Islamist violence. They're afraid of the far left. And so my point to you is abundantly clear. Why do we always hear from the politicians, oh, it's the far right as well? It just seems that they're throwing this bogeyman out there because they always have to be equitable in the threat. But the threat itself is not equitable. The threat overridingly comes from Islamists and now the far left. Why can't the authorities just admit the reality?
Well, I do agree with you, without any doubt at all. You are right that the severe threat to our national security at the moment comes from Islamists. I believe they are Iran-backed Islamists, and they are coming by whatever means they can into the UK. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps in the UK, which has not been banned, is totally inexplicable to me. As indeed, it is inexplicable to me that the threat level has just been raised to severe, saying an attack is highly likely. It should have been raised before Christmas after the Manchester Heaton synagogue attack. It was obvious what was going on there. It was obvious what the tactics were and what the strategy was to undermine the civil order here in the UK. And I take your point about the far right. It is true that those of us who watch these things very closely could point you to recent neo-Nazi terror attacks having been nipped, luckily, in the bud by the counter-terrorist police and MI5.
Anthony, of course there are isolated incidents, but 75% of MI5's caseload is Islamist extremism. Yes, Anthony, we have to move on. I'm being told we're running out of time. We'll have to continue this conversation another time. Thank you very much. Now,
disagree with you on that.
All right, mate. Well, the figures are the figures. Thank you very much, Anthony. And also, Mark White, you've got the footage for us of those dinghies arriving. We'll get that uploaded and show that to you soon. That's a breaking news story. But coming up soon, locals in a leafy Kent town have been left furious and frightened after the Home Office announced 14 child asylum seekers are to be dumped in a converted care home there. I'll be joined by a concerned local next.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
It's 4:28. Brace yourselves now. It's time for our brand new Great British Giveaway. Yippee! Your chance to have a spectacular summer with 76,543 quid, 76543, and 21 pence, 7654321 in tax-free cash. Here's the details you need to enter.
We're counting down to a spectacular summer. It's your chance to win £76,543 and 21 pence in totally tax-free cash. A lump sum that you could have in time to splash out with this summer. Imagine all the things you could do with that cash. Give the garden a glow up, max out on a new motor, or just make sure the coming year is your year. And because it's tax-free, you get to keep every single penny for a chance to win £76,543 and 21 pence in tax-free cash. Text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck. And now with the King and the Queen now departed from the United States, our very own Bev Turner has sat down with the woman behind the state visit, the Chief Protocol Officer, Monica Crowley. She carries out duties for the President, including welcoming high-level guests, maintaining relationships with the US's hundreds of diplomats, and, as was on show this week, welcoming the majestic King and Queen this week to the United States. Here's a sneak peek.
Royal family plays a very critical role in making sure that the United Kingdom has its place in the world.
And you have to work with a man who quite likes to rip up protocol.
This is a battle of good versus evil, of light and darkness. And Donald Trump, God bless him, through sheer force of will and hard work and courage, simply presses through. The president knows what the game is, and he simply doesn't care about the criticism, regardless of what quarter it comes from. So as I was on the floor of that ballroom praying with some of my table mates that this wasn't going to escalate beyond what we were just witnessing, it occurred to me that Donald Trump is such a unique figure.
Beautiful stuff. Now you can watch Bev Turner's full sit-down interview with Monica Crowley tonight on The Late Show Live, right here on GB News, live from midnight. Now back to British politics. Some desperate Labour Party ministers and members of Parliament have launched an astonishing anyone but Ange campaign in a desperate attempt to keep Angela Rayner out of number 10. Now that's because rumours are growing that she will soon mount a leadership challenge against Sir Keir Starmer, and this comes as it's also been reported that dozens of Labour MPs are now calling on the Prime Minister to sack Ed Miliband over his refusal to allow licences for new oil drilling in the North Sea. Well, I'm now joined in the studio by GBNews' political correspondent, Olivia Utley. Olivia, Labour are revolting.
Well, yes, there's been rumours for a long time now that there is a anyone but Ange plot going on among MPs in Westminster. The reason behind this is Angela Rayner has made no secret of being very, very ambitious. She would like to be Prime Minister. She's got a memoir coming out this month. Obviously, she's still got that big unpaid tax bill hanging over her, but it's thought that that'll be cleared up with HMRC within the next couple of weeks. And that would technically pave the way to her becoming a potential Prime Minister in the event that Keir Starmer stands aside or is kicked out. Now, she has her admirers. People think that she's a good dispatch box communicator compared to her successor as Deputy Prime Minister David Lammy. Maybe you can see what they mean. She's quite an effective legislator. She managed to get through the very controversial Workers' Rights Bill while she was a minister, and she's got that kind of perhaps more charismatic touch maybe than some of her some other Labour Party politicians or politicians in general maybe. But actually, when you look at the polling, she's not that popular. Only 15% of the general public think she would make a better Prime Minister than Keir Starmer. Given Keir Starmer's very low popularity ratings, that's pretty extraordinary. And plenty of Labour MPs are really worried that she would steer the party further to the left, which they think might make it more unelectable. So there's this campaign to try and stop her. There's talks about getting Wes Streeting in. The problem with Wes Streeting is even if he makes it to the final two with Angela Rayner's more likely to win with the grassroots members because she's more popular with the members. There's talk about Healy and Darren Jones going up on a joint ticket together. Can't see that being the most inspiring option. Basically, there is a very big worry among right-ish of the Labour Party MPs, Blairite MPs, that if Angela Rayner makes it to the final two of the leadership contest, then the grassroots members are going to vote for her and she is going to be Prime Minister.
Meanwhile, there are moves against Ed Miliband, the man who tried to ban tumble dryers this week, has been described as, how can I put this delicately, bat poo crazy by certain Labour parliamentarians. They're trying to keep him out of power, but he is really popular with the grassroots members.
Well, exactly. I think if you look at the demographics of Labour grassroots members, lots of them are actually so young they wouldn't remember the Ed Stone, they wouldn't remember Ed Miliband's defeat in a general election. I mean, there were rumours that at the last reshuffle, Keir Starmer wanted to move Ed Miliband out of that role and put someone a bit more centrist, less left-wing into it. But the problem was that at that reshuffle, Keir Starmer just didn't actually have that much political power. Ed Miliband pushed back, pointing out how popular he was among grassroots members. And essentially, Keir Starmer had to keep him in the job. I wonder if the Prime Minister will try and make another move to get rid of Ed Miliband after the local elections. It sounds as though there might be a reshuffle after the local elections because the Prime Minister is going to want to move the story on from the local well, perhaps all the polling is wrong and Labour will do really well, but we suspect that Keir Starmer will want to change the subject after
and somebody else on our screens there, Olivia Utley, Rachel Reeves. She's being rumoured to be the next one to be thrown under the Labour Party bus. A lot of bodies under that bus.
Well, a few months ago, Keir Starmer made a speech saying that, well, in answer to a question, said that he wanted Rachel Reeves to serve for the whole term, his whole term as Prime Minister, as his Chancellor. At Prime Minister's questions, Kemi Badenoch asked him if Rachel Reeves could be reshuffled after the election. He declined to answer on two occasions, but when we asked him when we asked the Prime Minister's spokesperson in lobby afterwards what the Prime Minister's official position on the Chancellor was, he said it was unchanged since he said that he wanted her to serve for that whole Parliament. I think if Keir Starmer were to sack Rachel Reeves, essentially a Prime Minister giving up on his Chancellor is evidence that the Prime Minister's entire economic strategy is going out the window and evidence of real weakness. So I think there would be a problem for Keir Starmer if he sacked Rachel Reeves. But as we know with Keir Starmer, he does rather like throwing people under the bus.
Rats in a sack. Olivia Utley, thank you very much indeed. Superb as ever. Loads more still to come between now and 5 p.m. And coming up next, locals in a leafy town in Kent have been left furious and frightened after the Home Office announced 14 child asylum seekers ought to be dumped in a converted care home. I'll be joined by a concerned local lady next. Don't go anywhere.
Hello, the long weekend is almost here. Welcome along to your latest weather update from the Met Office on GB News. For many, it'll be a dry and a bright day tomorrow. There will be a few showers around, particularly across parts of the north, and then later in the day, some heavier rain coming up from the south. We've replaced high pressure with low pressure, been gradually increasing the cloud from the west through the day today. It's still pretty warm out there across eastern areas. One or two thunderstorms rumbling away, and some showery rain for northern England and eastern Scotland, clearing out into the North Sea. The potential for one or two heavy showers through the night across Kent and parts of East Anglia too, but many places will become dry overnight and much milder than many nights have been through this week, with some towns and cities staying in double digits. A bit of a grey start to Saturday, but by and large a dry start, and most of England and Wales will have most of the day dry, but across the two, and the showers becoming more widespread across Northern Ireland as we go through the morning also. The odd shower here and there across England and Wales, but most here will have a dry Saturday morning, and certainly for many central and eastern parts it'll stay that way as well. Perhaps a bit misty, murky, quite a bit of cloud around, but we'll see some bright or sunny spells coming through, particularly over eastern parts of England. But we do need to watch this zone of thundery showers working up into southern counties of England as we go into the afternoon. At the same time, the showers becoming more widespread over Scotland, Northern Ireland, perhaps the odd one in West Wales too. But still quite warm in the east, temperatures getting into the low 20s here, but generally it will turn cooler as we go through the long weekend. We're going to see some heavier downpours spreading up across the south on Saturday evening. Bear that in mind if you are heading out. Haven't seen much rain recently. This could, as I say, be really quite heavy, quite widespread for Sunday, but turning a bit drier as we go into Monday, but also through this weekend turning a little chillier. Goodbye.
Thank you, Britain, for making GB News Radio such a huge success. Whether you're in the car, on the go, or listening at home, thank you for choosing us as your radio station.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Emergency roadworks on the A82 near Old Kilpatrick restrict traffic. The A50 westbound in Staffordshire is congested between the A522 and A521, with delays up to 90 minutes. Rutland's A1 southbound is closed between the A151 and A606 due to a serious accident, causing 40-minute delays. A broken-down vehicle blocks a lane on the M11 southbound in Essex, delaying traffic by 10 minutes. Expect an hour-long delay on the A27 eastbound in East Sussex. In Devon, a collision closes a lane on the A30 westbound. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back. It's 20 to 5. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, locals in a leafy Kent town have been left furious and frightened after the Home Office announced that child asylum seekers are to be put there in a converted care home. Now, the council has assured residents the immigrants will all be aged under 16, but locals are considerably concerned at the prospect. And I'm delighted now to be joined by one of those concerned residents, and that's Jacqueline Williams. Jacqueline, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have your company. Can you explain to us, before we get to the property in question itself? I mean, I've seen video, I think we have some on our screen, of Lydd down in Kent. It's a beautiful, rural, quiet part of the country. It seems like the last place on earth. We can see like a beautiful church, beautiful high street, rolling fields, sheep. Why on earth would you stick asylum seekers there?
I really don't know, because there's nothing there for them, you know. And this has been going on for quite a while, since last year. And when I've tried to find out information about it, or I've gone online and said, is there anybody starting a campaign, or is there any way I could find out about the place? I seem to get jumped on by people that are quite superior to me, I believe, and they all shout at me, children. You know, my local councillor, I've asked him a few times, and he said to me, look, our hands are tied, there's nothing we can do. But that's not, I don't want to roll over and die before I'm dead. That's what, when you look at Crowsborough and you look how much they've campaigned, all I'm frightened of is I've got a family living there. I've got two lovely little grandchildren. There's one little school, primary school, and it comes out, and some of the children from there in the summer go on to a lovely triangle-shaped green, and there's a park. But everyone around there looks after other people's children. You know, it's a proper community. But it's not like I don't want to share my country or my world with other people. You know, as you can hear, strong London accent, Bermondsey girls. We don't change our Bermondsey girls. You know, I'm coming up to 65 years old, and I never thought in a million years that I'd be living in fear or frightened that my children or my grandchildren would go out and who they would talk to. I've brought them up, you know, with all their don't talk to strangers and all the things you're meant to do. It's just that when I hear that these are going to be undocumented children, we are not doing the test. The government won't let people have the test because of their human rights. But what about the children's human rights? What about young women's human rights where we live? It's like, if it's meant to work both ways, isn't it?
So Jacqueline, just to interject, if I may, the property in question, it's been abandoned for a couple of years, but it's been bought by the Home Office ostensibly.
Yes.
And the council have been bypassed. That happens all the time. So the council finds itself this is foisted upon it. It's a legal duty of the council and the local authority, particularly in Kent, because of course you're on the sharp end of, you know, just down the road from Dover there. But the people that are earmarked to go in there are children, 14 children, but you're concerned, or you're not. I mean, you just said, a lot of the time we don't know, or we can't know if children are children because of age testing and some of the cases that we see in the press.
When you vote people in, I voted Nigel, but when people vote people in, and Labour got in, and, you know, when people get in, you say, I'll give them a benefit of a doubt, again, but when you feel like that our human rights, the children's human rights, young women's human rights are put in front of people they don't even know who they are. They can't say we're giving their human rights to them because they're so-and-so. You're giving human rights to people that they know who they are. They all know who they are. But what do we do when we bring the children out of the school, take them over to the park, and we've got about 10 men sitting there with beards, smoking, drinking out of cans, all right? You know, we're going to, in Crowsborough, I've seen women in like a plain uniform that they've got themselves, and they're doing a thing where children meet certain place, they walk them to school, they walk them back home, and they do a rota, or they're going to have to do a rota through the summer holidays. And you can't just do it in one because you're not safe yourself. It's got to be done in three. I just can't understand. Donald Trump wouldn't do this to the people in his country. And, all right, I know that other countries in Europe have done it, but it's something much higher than all of them and all of us. We know that, you know, and we know that the Prime Minister's being controlled by much higher powers because nobody would make themselves look so stupid. Nobody would do that. You know, it's got to be, he's definitely bowing down to somebody, and we know that as well. But what do we do? You know... I'll talk too fast, sorry,
we've run out of time. Look, thank you very, very much for your time today, Jacqueline Williams. We'll keep a close eye on this case for you. Appreciate your time. Mind how you go. Now, a Kent County Council spokesperson has told GB News this. As required by a High Court's ruling, Kent County Council continues working closely with the Home Office on the provision of appropriate levels of accommodation to meet the required anticipated need. As with existing reception centres, Peacock House is run by KCC employees and has stringent security and safeguarding controls in place. By bringing this property into use as a reception centre, the government believes the council will be better placed to meet the requirements of the court's ruling and its statutory duties under the Children's Act of 1989. Well, coming up next, a British colonial barracks in Malta is to be demolished in a decision that has infuriated heritage groups. We'll be live from Malta. That looks absolutely beautiful. Now, if you're in search of some holiday sun, perhaps try Malta. Here's the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Plenty of sunshine over the Canaries this weekend. Some heavy showers over northern Spain and some big downpours inland across Turkey also. We'll also see the potential for 1 or 2 showers heading to the Algarve on Saturday. The Balearics probably dry and sunny at this stage. Lots of sunshine for Italy on Saturday and for most of the Greek islands as well. There's that heavy rain across Turkey. That is pulling away. We'll see the cloud increasing in Rome through the course of the weekend and some showers continuing in Barcelona.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
We can allow.
Stop.
We can allow.
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
I think if we try to mix what happens in their private lives and the art they produce, we won't have no artists left to listen to, no books left to read. Culture in itself will be dented. We always have to remind ourselves that these people are human. I'm not saying what they've done in their private lives are okay and should be forgotten about. But if we start undermining audiences and think, okay, we can't do any films about them, we can't do any books about them, there's nothing left for us to celebrate. It's always down to an audience member. If they don't like Michael Jackson, no one's forcing you to buy the ticket to go watch his film. There are millions of Michael Jackson fans out there, so why should they suffer just because of these allegations which he was proved not guilty for?
I mean, I know it's not meant to be a documentary. It is a sort of celebration of his very public life, of his stage life, as it were. But you're still not being told the whole story. So are you being hoodwinked?
No, actually, Anne. So what's actually happened, Lionsgate, who have produced the film, they're actually planning a follow-up to this film. So it actually ends when he releases Thriller. So there will be a follow-up to this movie. So let's talk about the allegations now. When he was accused by Jordan Chandler in 1993 of child abuse, he signed a couple of NDAs, Michael Jackson. So the film did want to depict it, but they can't do it because of the NDAs that he signed at the time. And those NDAs actually stand after his death. So it's not that the family haven't wanted to highlight it. I do agree that obviously because the estate made this film can be one-sided, but that side of Michael Jackson's career, they did want to include in the film.
GB News, the People's Channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
The Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong Tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Your time is 10 to 5 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, an historic British colonial barracks in Malta, it's absolutely beautiful, is set to be destroyed with a 5-star hotel and an apartments complex to be built in its place. Now, local heritage groups are utterly furious after the planning tribunal rejected their appeals to keep it. I'm delighted now to be joined by a member of the National Trust for Malta, and that is Daniel Sidia. We'll get to Daniel in a short moment's time. Just to talk about this beautiful property, get it on your screen. It's a stunning piece of architecture. It's built from sandstone, built as one of the first barracks by the British Empire to allow marital homes to be had by servicemen abroad. It was used as a hospital in World War I to treat soldiers. And, of course, it was used in World War II in the defence of Malta against the tyranny of the Nazi regime. It's an absolutely astonishingly beautiful barracks, and yet the Maltese authorities want to flatten it. They want to build a new hotel in its place, and locals are utterly seething. Let's get now to my guest, Daniel Cillier. Daniel, welcome to the show. It's a beautiful, beautiful barracks. Why on earth would they want to flatten it?
Well, there's a question. There's the fort, which was built originally by the Knights of Malta, had been abandoned. It was supposed to become the city of goats, though, originally. But then, when the pirates were not attacking the island anymore, there was no need to have the actual the city, the protected city, anymore. When the British came, they started using it immediately. They used it as a hospital, and then they decided to build one of the first, if not the first, British barracks quarters in the whole Commonwealth. Because at that time, the new law had just passed saying that the British soldiers, which were posted abroad, should have their families with them. And so they built this beautiful building as a British barracks. They're actually apartments. The rooms are apartments on the inside, built on purposely in that place because it would get the most sun in winter and doesn't get any sun whatsoever in summer, so it's very fresh.
Okay.
And
so Daniel, if I
may
interject, we don't have a huge amount of time left. If I may interject, with a heritage like that, and it's clearly an astonishingly beautiful barracks, why is it not protected? How can it be demolished?
Because way back in 2015, when 2005, excuse me, when the whole scheduling was done of the fort, that was left on the site. It wasn't done, obviously for purpose, because most probably the developers already had in mind to demolish it and make, I send actually a 3D model as well of the project they want to do, of this huge apartment blocks for tourism. And since the barracks is exactly in the most beautiful place in the whole fort, they want to get the views and they want to get the air that the barracks has today. And obviously, it's a question of money. The governments, we've had one after the other, closed an eye. Unfortunately, the superintendents of cultural heritage never scheduled this particular building. They scheduled the other parts of the fort and the fort itself, but not this particular building. And one has to say that in Malta, this is in Gozo, the smaller island, in Malta, there are about 82 of similar barracks, some of them just after the Second World War, and they're all scheduled.
Daniel, we have to leave it there. Thank you very much. Now, the Maltese are cross, and I'll tell you what, the British aren't very happy about it either. Thank you very much, Daniel. Plenty more to come in the next hour, including we'll have astonishing exclusive footage from the Channel. Boats are coming to Britain as we speak. Mark White will have all the footage after the break. See you soon. This is GB News, Britain's News Channel.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, the long weekend is almost here. Welcome along to your latest weather update from the Met Office on GB News. For many, it'll be a dry and a bright day tomorrow. There will be a few showers around, particularly across parts of the north, and then later in the day, some heavier rain coming up from the south. We've replaced high pressure with low pressure. Been gradually increasing the cloud from the west through the day today. It's still pretty warm out there across eastern areas. One or two thunderstorms rumbling away, and some showery rain for northern England and eastern Scotland, clearing out into the North Sea. The potential for one or two heavy showers through the night across Kent and parts of East Anglia too, but many places will become dry overnight and much milder than many nights have been through this week, with some towns and cities staying in double digits. A bit of a grey start to Saturday, but by and large a dry start, and most of England and Wales will have most of the day dry, but across Scotland and Northern Ireland we'll see increasing chance of some showery rain, initially across the north of Scotland, but through the morning some showers developing further south too, and the showers becoming more widespread across Northern Ireland as we go through the morning also. The odd shower here and there across England and Wales, but most here will have a dry Saturday morning, and certainly for many central and eastern parts it'll stay that way as well. Perhaps a bit misty, murky, quite a bit of cloud around, but we'll see some bright or sunny spells coming through, particularly over eastern parts of England. But we do need to watch this zone of thundery showers working up into southern counties of England as we go into the afternoon. At the same time, the showers becoming more widespread over Scotland, Northern Ireland, perhaps the odd one in West Wales too. But still quite warm in the east, temperatures temperatures getting into the low 20s here, but generally it will turn cooler as we go through the long weekend. We're going to see some heavier downpours spreading up across the south on Saturday evening. Bear that in mind if you are heading out. Haven't seen much rain recently. This could, as I say, be really quite heavy, quite widespread for Sunday, but turning a bit drier as we go into Monday, but also through this weekend turning a little chillier. Goodbye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for all of you who listen to GB News Radio.
Whether you're at home or on the go, you're making us Britain's news channel and Britain's radio station.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The A50 westbound in Staffordshire near Blythe Bridge East faces half-hour delays. A27 eastbound through Brighton and Hove has similar queues. The M60 anti-clockwise exit slip at junction 14 in Salford is fully closed, expected to clear by 6:15. An accident on the A1 southbound in Rutland has closed all lanes with a 10-minute delay. And on the trains, cross-country services are disrupted between Wakefield Westgate and Sheffield, affecting the Elizabeth line between London, Paddington and Reading. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
There's a totally tax-free £76,543.21 in cash to be won. Cash to spend on anything you like. That's like having over £6,000 extra to spend each month for a whole year. You could spend it on a bucket list holiday, treats for all of the family, or just save it for a rainy day. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the cars.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Very, very good afternoon to you on this beautiful Friday afternoon. It's 5 p.m. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News, broadcasting for you all the way through until 6 p.m. We've got a cracking show, including a great exclusive from Mark White. And here's what's coming up on today's show. As Britain's terror threat soars to severe, GB News can today reveal that the Metropolitan Police is seeking to ban all so-called hate marches scheduled for May the 16th. But as well as a pro-Palestine gathering, that could mean the Unite the Kingdom March of Patriots also gets the chop. Is that fair, or is that yet more proof of two-tiered policing? And a man who illegally came to Britain twice on small boats has been found guilty of preparing a terror-related knife attack at the Israeli embassy. So-called two dinghies Abdullah al-Badi claimed that he chose the path of martyrdom. But is he proof that Britain's porous borders are simply unfit for purpose? We'll have fresh footage of his arrest coming for you shortly. And some terrified Labour Party ministers and MPs have reportedly launched an Anyone But Ange campaign in a desperate attempt to keep Angela Rayner out of number 10 amid ongoing leadership speculation. But can Rayner be stopped? And Scots are today doing the Highland fling after Donald Trump bowed to the King and scrapped tariffs on Scotch whisky. We'll be sampling a wee dram or two in the studio today, me and Mark White. The guy might need a stretcher. That's all coming up later on in this hour. And that sent Mark White into a little coughing fit there. Mark White joins us in the studio because we've got some more incredible footage from the Channel. Yes, the weather's nice, not just nice for you out there enjoying the garden. The weather is also nice in the Channel for the people smugglers who never, ever stop. More boats incoming. 2 days of good weather ahead. We've got the exclusive footage of the latest invasion from the Channel, plus some more footage of that incredible arrest of the guy that caught in 2 dinghies, Abdullah al-Badri, a guy who came to Britain twice on a dinghy. He left once on the back of a lorry. He thought it was going to Manchester. Instead, it went out of the country. Not the brightest spark, I'm sure you'll agree. But he was apprehended climbing the fence at the Israeli embassy, armed with 2 knives and a letter of martyrdom. Well, we've got fresh footage of him being apprehended. He proves exactly the case. We have no idea who's coming across the Channel. We have no idea who is amongst us. They can come twice and we can't stop them. And now the police response is a clampdown on marchers. And we've got a breaking news line on that for you too. Don't go anywhere. Get in touch, gbnews.com/your say is the way to do so, or scan the QR code on your screens now. But now here's your headlines with Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you very much indeed, Martin. Good evening to you. 3 minutes past 5. Our headlines. The Green Party leader, Zach Polanski, has apologised for criticising the actions of police officers while arresting the suspect in the Golders Green knife attack. The Post accused officers of repeatedly and violently kicking a mentally ill man in the head when he was already incapacitated by a taser. Well, Mr Polanski apologised for sharing the tweet in haste, saying everyone in leadership has a responsibility for lowering the temperature at a time of such tension. His response, though, was criticised by the head of the Metropolitan Police, Sir Mark Rowley, who said the Green Party leader's actions have undermined the confidence of officers dealing with dangerous people.
If an eminent person steps forward into operational policing with inaccuracies and challenges things in a way that can undermine that trust, I need to speak up for those officers. I'm really grateful for the support of Britons who have, both in response to the body-worn video we released and in response to my letter, have been so effusive and assertive in their support for what those extraordinary officers did.
A man's been remanded into custody after appearing in court charged with attempted murder linked to the stabbing of 2 Jewish men in North London on Wednesday. 45-year-old Essa Suleiman, a Somali-born British national, will appear at the Old Bailey on May the 15th. He's also been charged with a third kind of attempted murder in relation to a separate incident earlier that day involving a man he's known for 20 years. Britain's terror threat level has been raised to severe, meaning an attack is highly likely over the next 6 months. Well, the attacks led to protests over the policing of pro-Palestinian marches, with demonstrators taking to Downing Street yesterday to demand action. The Minister for Violence Against Women and Girls, Alex Davis-Jones, says the government will act to stop unlawful protests.
Ultimately, we are a country and a nation of free speech. We have the right to peacefully protest, and I will defend that liberty to the hilt. Anyone has the right to express their views and opinions to government, to organisations about how they feel. But if you are going on these marches and you are taking part in anti-Semitic chants, you are calling for globalising the Intifada, you are wearing slogans of paragliders, for example, and glorifying terrorist organisations, then the government will act, and I would expect the police to act and arrest anyone behaving illegally.
A failed asylum seeker has been found guilty of trying to break into London's Israeli embassy to launch a knife attack. Kuwait-born Abdullah al-Badri was tackled by armed police after attempting to scale the embassy's fence. He was carrying 2 4-inch knives at the time last May. The 34-year-old only arrived in the UK on a small boat from France 16 days before the incident. It was the second time he had entered the UK illegally. The driver of a car which crashed into the grounds of a school in southwest London, killing two 8-year-old girls, has been charged with causing death by dangerous driving. Selena Lau, railings of the study prep school in Wimbledon during a garden party on the last day of term in 2023. She originally faced no charges, but police reopened the case in 2024. Prosecutors say she had an undiagnosed epileptic seizure. Her lawyer says she will deny all the charges. The co-founder of the clothing firm Superdry is facing jail after being found guilty of rape. 54-year-old James Holder had been on a night out in May 2022 when he went back to the woman's flat in Cheltenham in Gloucestershire and attacked her. He is due to be sentenced on the 7th of May at Bristol Crown Court. Labour's landmark Renters' Rights Act comes into force today. The new laws ban no-fault evictions and make it illegal to increase rents more than once a year. Landlords will now also have to reasonably consider requests for pets. Housing, Communities and Local Government Secretary Steve Reid has welcomed the move.
Well, for far too long, renters in this country have been living in insecurity, never knowing when they're going to be kicked out of their home, never knowing when they're going to get yet another unaffordable rent rise.
New footage has emerged showing the moment an armed man stormed Donald Trump's dinner in Washington, I should say, the Foreign Correspondents' Dinner. The federal prosecutor released a video which appeared to show how the man tried to storm the White House Correspondents' Dinner in an alleged plot to kill the US president. The footage seems to show a security agent opening fire in the direction of the sprinting gunman, who's armed with a long-barreled weapon. It is unclear if he discharges it. The King's been officially welcomed to Bermuda with a ceremony full of pomp and pageantry. A 21-gun salute heralded the King's arrival in the aptly named King's Square, where a guard of honour from the Royal Bermuda Regiment was waiting. Charles arrived in Bermuda last night following a 4-day state visit to the US, where he and the Queen were helping to resolve diplomatic tensions between the countries. Charles will stay in the British Overseas Territory on this solo visit until Saturday. And the King and Queen left the US with a parting gift as Donald Trump lifted tariffs on Scottish whisky. The US President said their trip achieved what others could not. The move also follows months of lobbying to remove the 10% tax, with the US remaining the single largest export market for Scotland's whisky industry. And those are your headlines. I'll be back with more at past.
Taking the ups and downs in our stride. Stilts Home Lifts sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Right, let's just take a quick look at the finance for you. A pound will buy you $1.35 and €1.15. Gold will cost £3,554 per ounce, and the FTSE 100 trading at 10,596 points.
GB News Finance Report, brought to you by Stilts Home Lifts.
Thank you. I've got some breaking news for you now, and it's bad news for Brussels because Donald Trump has just announced that a 25% tariff will be charged to the European Union for all cars and trucks coming into the United States. Now, the US president said the latest tariff strikes come following the European Union's failure to comply with their trade deal. Once again, policy announced on Truth Social. As you can see here, Donald Trump announcing, I'm pleased to announce that based on the fact the European Union is not complying with our fully agreed to trade deal, next week I'll be increasing tariffs charged to the EU for cars and trucks coming to the US. The tariff will be increased to 25%. Now, that coming on the same day we found out that tariffs to Scotch whisky will be cut. Under the Brexit bonus, you might say, we've had the right royal treatment. Brussels has been right royally shafted. Moving on to our top story this hour. A man who twice entered the United Kingdom by small boat and attempted to break into the Israeli embassy in London with 2 knives. He's been found guilty today at the Old Bailey. And I'm delighted to be joined in the studio by GB News' Home and Security Editor, Mark White. Mark, I believe we have some fresh footage of a man we're calling now two dinghies, Abdul al-Badri, a man who came into the country twice on small boat, finally tasting some justice.
Yeah, al-Badri tried to attack the Israeli embassy, or people inside the Israeli embassy in West London on the 28th of April last year. We can show you the images initially of him approaching the building and then trying to get in over the fence itself before members of the Metropolitan Police Parliamentary and Diplomatic Protection Command managed to wrestle him to the ground. I mean, look at the way he's dressed there with...
Pretty obvious.
He does look very suspicious. Well, clearly he drew the attention of those Metropolitan Police officers who, as you can see here, for those on radio, he's currently trying to climb that fence, the security fence. Two members of the Parliamentary and Diplomatic Protection Unit managed to grab him and wrestle with him, get him to the ground. And, you know, when they searched him, Martin, they found that he was deadly serious. He had two knives in his pockets, as well as a martyrdom letter saying that he was prepared to carry out this attack and kill himself in the name of Almighty God. You can see him there, having been wrestled to the ground and being put up against the fence as he searched. And it's at this point when he's asked, do you have anything on you? And he said, just my two weapons. So just his two knives that he was intent on murdering people inside the Israeli embassy with.
And this is fresh footage just released. This is police body cam footage that's been released of this dramatic intervention. I mean, we're taking the mickey out of this guy, calling him two dinghies Abdullah. He's walking down the street looking like the world's most obvious terrorist in waiting. I mean, pretty clueless. Thank the heavens. He's a terrible attempt, but very, very brave, these officers, once again, and they were fully armed. They're armed. They're outside the Israeli embassy. Abdullah could have met his maker. He's lucky to be alive.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to sort of look at him and sort of snigger a bit. He looks, you know, for all the world like a Sacha Baron Cohen parody there, but he was a man with murder on his mind. An absolutely deadly attempt to get into the Israeli embassy and to kill as many people as he could in retaliation for Israel's actions in Gaza. But he was stopped by those alert members of the Parliamentary and Diplomatic Protection Command.
And we should say again, just as we saw in Golders Green, tremendous bravery from those officers putting themselves in harm's way to take this threat down, to deal with it calmly, to deal with it peacefully. And another threat has been neutralised. Mark White, bringing us on to our next story neatly now. Fresh footage from the Channel once again. More boats coming our way, more illegal immigrants coming our way. We don't know who they are, where they come from. You've got some fresh footage.
Yeah, well, I mean, just to say, this man, of course, crossed the English Channel twice in a small boat and then went on to try to murder people like this. And he's not the only person who's come across the English Channel. There have been many who've then gone on to commit some quite horrific crimes. This is the Border Force vessel Ranger coming in, exclusive video shot by our producer, Chris, in Dover, overlooking the harbour there. The Border Force vessel Ranger, just about an hour ago, coming into Dover with 55 migrants taken off a boat that had come all the way down the coast, all the way down at Equin Plage, which is not far from the Somme. Remember, I told you last weekend they were launching from the Somme. I mean, that is so far down, 70 miles south of where they would normally launch from around the Dunkirk area. And, of course, they've also been launching from Belgium as well. All of this, Martin, to try to stay one step ahead of the police in France to ensure that they stand the best possible chance of being able to successfully launch into the English Channel, even though it makes the voyage, of course, to UK waters much, much longer and more hazardous. That's how determined they are. And the biggest issue about this, to get back to our central point here, with, you know, two dinghies, Abdullah and the others who've come across the English Channel posing a threat, is that these individuals carry no documentation for the most part. They're undocumented males who, you know, in terms of the threat they pose, are very difficult to ascertain just what threat they pose. And as I say, we know, because we've spoken about it many times, and quite a significant number that have crossed the Channel have gone on to commit offences, including terrorism, including serious sexual offences, and including murder.
And our ever-watching eye on the coast there tells us that we could have another couple of days of this, because while the weather's nice for barbecues, the weather's nice for people going to the garden centre, the weather's also perfect for the people smugglers, Mark White.
Yeah, we are in for perfect conditions this evening into throughout tomorrow. It starts to sort of get worse again on Sunday, and on high tide this evening, we're expecting more boats to launch.
Thank you, Mark White. Stick with us, because I know you want to input on this next story, because police are reportedly now considering a ban on pro-Palestine marchers following the recent Golders Green attack. Now, the government SAR, Jonathan Hall, is calling for a moratorium on demonstrations, warning they paint a target on the backs of Jews. But today, GB News can also reveal that the Metropolitan Police is considering seeking to ban all so-called hate marches scheduled for May the 16th. Now, that could mean that the Unite the Kingdom march could also get the chop. Is this an example of two-tier policing? Mark White, you've got a breaking news line for us on this story too.
Yeah, an intervention on this, on our story, which has obviously been put out on our social media channels from Tommy Robinson, helping organise the Unite the Kingdom march. He has seen this, and he believes that actually it will go ahead, that there is, he hopes at least, no danger of that march being banned. So responding to our coverage, he says, our Unite the Kingdom march is going ahead as planned. We've already agreed conditions on our march. It helps maintain order. We had a long briefing just this morning with police. There's no talk of banning our march. And Tommy Robinson just finishes that posting by saying, see you all in a fortnight as we unite the kingdom. So clearly, for many of those patriots who will be on that march, the hope is that they are not the Metropolitan Police going to move to put any restrictions in place.
OK, just to point out, our intel was that Sir Mark Rowley was considering to request that the Home Secretary ban all the marches on May the 16th because there's a risk of serious disorder, and instead make them into smaller, static protests. Let's see what happens. And let's get my next guest on this story now. That's the political commentator Matthew Hulbert. Matthew, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have your company. So, of course, this story is developing before our eyes, but do you think we are in a situation now with the terror threat at Seville that we should at least ban those pro-Palestine marches?
Hi, Martin. Good to be with you this afternoon. Look, I'm a liberal, and part of my liberalism is the, that we're able to undertake peaceful protest. I think that is one of the fundamental human rights that we have as citizens. Now, I should just point out that I have no chuck with people who are peddling hate, and where the police are able to, adjudicate that, they should arrest people and take action, and justice should take its course. I have no chuck with such people whatsoever. But do I believe that, broadly speaking, that we should be able to protest the actions of those in power, whether here or elsewhere? Yeah, of course I believe that.
Because the Prime Minister Keir Starmer said yesterday the phrase globalise the intifada is racist and could now get you arrested. Are you happy with that?
Yes, I mean it's certainly not something I'd even think about saying, and I think we're in such a situation at the moment with the vile, dreadful anti-Jewish hatred that we've seen and that we continue to see, indeed that we've seen this week. That yes, I mean, I think if people are going on protest saying something like that, they should be dealt with. But I'd like to think, at least, I'd like to hope, Martin, that that would be a very small minority, and that most people who go on these marches have a genuine concern about what is happening in the Middle East and about some of the actions of the government of Israel, and they should be able to peacefully protest.
But the fact of the matter is, Matthew, they might be thinking about banning these marches because it will be severely tested. You know what it's like. If you say to a crowd, if you say this phrase illegal, you'll be arrested. You could have tens of thousands of people saying it en masse, and I'm afraid they're going to need a bigger nick.
That's true as well, and these things are never easy, are they? And you know, we live in a very complicated Western democracy in which people feel that they have their right to say what they want. As it happens, I've never been a free speech absolutist. I believe we all have to live within the rules of the land and within the social mores and what people think about certain things. So, you know, I've never been someone who believes in absolute free speech. I don't think that exists. And so, but I think, you know, within those parameters, should people be able to, broadly speaking, say what they want? Yes, of course. And you know, I'm just interested, Martin, that you know, you're having your say on the pro-Palestine marches, and yet seem to be presenting the what some of us might believe as the far right march of Tommy Robinson as some great, wonderful thing of which there's no hatred involved at all. I mean, is that really your position?
Let's look at the arrest numbers, shall we? So, I mean, the police number for the United Kingdom march is 150,000. Many people think it was far greater than that. We heard reports of 500,000. We'll never know. There were 26 arrests on that march, Matthew, and the great many of those arrests were precipitated when the police erroneously funnelled protesters towards Stand Up to Racism, where it kicked off. So the arrests would have been even lower without that. The arrests were pitifully low, and yet 890 people were arrested at the last Palestine march. Hundreds are routinely arrested at those marches. Putting the politics to one side, Matthew, it's quite clear to anybody with half a brain the bigger threat is at the pro-Palestine marches, and in particular, when we're seeing things like Golders Green and surging anti-Semitism, we are seeing concrete proof that those marchers, people in Golders Green telling us from the scene of the attack this week, telling Mark White, who was there, those marches make them feel very unsafe and are actually having a real threat in the world. I look at the facts before my eyes. Are you?
I think there's a problem with both sets of marches. I think both, with the worst elements of both, seek to intimidate people and seek to provoke people and seek to...
But there was hardly any trouble at the United Kingdom march. That's the point. The facts are the facts.
I'd condemn both. Of the minority of small elements in both marches who, I think, if we're being honest with ourselves, we know that they seek to sow division. I have no truck with people who are peddling anti-Jewish hatred. I think it's absolutely abhorrent, and those people should be dealt with. And my sympathy are, of course, with the victims, who I hope are getting better, of the terrible incident in Golders Green this week, and with their families and with the wider Jewish community. The only point I'm trying to make here with you this afternoon is that I think we lose the right to protest at our peril. It's a fundamental human right that we all should fight for.
But you think that the United Kingdom march should be banned because there's 26 arrests, whereas where there are up to 900 on other... You somehow think they're equitable?
No, I'm not saying it should be banned, but I'm saying that the police should be on the lookout just as much at that for people potentially causing serious issues, just as they are at
there's old bill everywhere.
The pro-Palestine marches.
OK, good. Thank you very much indeed. We have to move on. Thank you very much, Matthew Hilbert. Appreciate your time. Donald Trump speaking. Let's get over to Donald Trump.
Many, many times, and nobody's ever gotten it before. They consider it totally unconstitutional. But we're always in touch with Congress. But nobody's ever sought it before. Nobody's ever asked for it before. It's never been used before. Why should we be different? We have great respect for Pakistan and Islamabad, and tremendous respect for the Prime Minister and the Field Marshal, and they're working with us. They continue to work with us, but the trip is a very long one, and we're doing everything in terms of negotiating right now, in terms of the negotiation telephonically. They've made strides, but I'm not sure if they ever get there. There's tremendous discord. They're having a tremendous problem getting along with each other in Iran. The leadership is very disjointed. It's got 2 to 3 groups, maybe 4, and it's a very disjointed leadership. And with that being said, they all want to make a deal, but they're all messed up. I spoke with the winner, a very good man. As you know, I was very strongly in favor of him in Iraq. And we had a long conversation yesterday. I congratulated him. He won, and with our help, he won, and we want him to do very well. And I told him that the United States is with him all the way. It was a great victory. The new head of Iraq is somebody that we support very strongly.
Pakistan has opened the land route with Iran. Did they consult you before opening it up to Iran? And are you aware of it?
That was a vicious bee. I know everything about it. Yeah, I have great respect. Are you from Pakistan?
No, I'm not from Pakistan.
I have great respect for Pakistan and for the Field Marshal and for the Prime Minister. Yeah, I know that.
On the European Union yesterday, you talked about Italy and the withdrawal of troops from Europe, from Italy and Spain. Can you clarify with your words?
Well, I'm not happy with Italy and I'm not happy with Spain. And they feel it's okay for Iran to have a nuclear weapon. Anybody that feels it's okay for Iran to have a nuclear weapon is not very smart. And it'll be a terrible thing in the future. If they were ever allowed to have a nuclear weapon, you would have problems the likes of which the world has never seen before, and it's not going to happen. And aside from that, right now they have no Navy, it's been wiped out, no Air Force, it's been wiped out. They have no anything. They have no anti-aircraft, they have no radar, they have no leaders, because frankly, their leaders are very disjointed. They have a lot of problems right now. They're not getting along with each other. Their leaders are not getting along with each other. So. We raised the tariffs on cars coming in from the European Union because the European Union was not adhering to the trade deal we have. So based on that, now, when they build their plants, of which they're spending over $100 billion, all countries, not just the Union. When those plants open, there won't be any tariffs. But we raised the tariffs because they were not, as usual, they were not adhering to the agreement that we have. We have a trade deal with the European Union. They were not adhering to it. So I raised the tariffs on cars and trucks to 25%. That's billions of dollars coming into the United States, and it forces them to move their factory production much faster. We have right now in the United States over $100 billion of car plants being built. It's a record. We've never had anything like it from all countries, Japan, South Korea, by the way, Canada, Mexico, they're all building plants in the United States. But the European Union was not adhering to the deal that we made. As you know, it's a very disjointed, unfriendly leadership, unfriendly to each other. They're not getting along. They're very, very confused by what's happened because essentially most of their military has been wiped out. But we just had a conversation with Iran. Let's see what happens. But I would say that I am not happy. Their leadership is very disjointed, very argumentative with each other. They come back, one says one thing, one says another. They're very confused. Obviously, their country has been, frankly, decimated. Their Navy is gone, their Air Force is gone. Many of their soldiers, unfortunately, are gone. They've got to come up with the right deal. At this moment, I'm not satisfied with what they're doing.
Did you decide against bailing out Spirit Airlines?
Well, I guess we're looking at it. If we could do it, we'd do it, but only if it's a good deal.
Claiming that they're preparing to shut down this weekend because they haven't gotten a deal.
Well, we're looking at it, but if we can't make a good deal, no institution's been able to do it. I said, I'd like to save the jobs, but we'll have an announcement sometime today. We gave them a final proposal.
Excuse me. Mr. President, it's day 60. Are you going to seek congressional authorization for...
Well, no other country has ever done it. It's never been, as you know, most people consider it totally unconstitutional. Also, we had a ceasefire, so that gives you additional time. But no other country's done it. We're in the midst of a big victory. This is a victory like we haven't had since Venezuela, okay, to be honest with you. We haven't had, but, you know, we have a country that lost its way. It really lost its way. That's our country in terms of the military. Now we have a great military. We're on our way to another victory, a big victory, and I don't think that it's constitutional what they're asking for. These are not patriotic people that are asking. You know, when they say, even the losers, even the ones that say all the wrong things, admit that it's been amazing what we've done. The strait is totally shut down. It's flawless. It's totally 100% shut down. Now, we've been dealing with Iran. They want to make a deal. They're not there. They're not with them. They're sort of, they get close, and then a new group of people come in. They don't know who their leaders are. They have no idea who their leaders are, but they're very confused, and that's because of the success we've had militarily. They essentially have no military. Let me just tell you, the war powers. So many presidents, as you know, have gone and exceeded it. It's never been used. It's never been adhered to, and every other president considered it totally unconstitutional, and we agree with that.
Will Iran affect your China trip, given the blockade?
No, China, it's going to be amazing. The visit with China and Chairman Xi, that's going to be great. We have the trip with China coming up, and I think it'll be an amazing event.
Mr. President, if you can't get a deal on Iran, what next? What will you do?
Well, right now we have negotiations going on. They're not getting there. They are very disjointed. They're extremely disjointed. They're not able to get along with each other as leaders. They don't know who the leader is. Their military has been defeated. If we left right now, it would take them 20 years to build back that country, but we're not satisfied at this moment.
Are you considering new strikes on Iran?
Why would I tell you that?
Spirit Airlines, what has been the holdup on a deal? Are they balking?
We're looking at it. We're looking at trying to help them. Something we're not looking to get involved with, but if we can, it's 14,000 jobs. We are, I would say we're driving a tough deal, but it's one of those things. We'll do it or we won't. We'll have something for you today or tomorrow.
It seems like the other lenders are balking. They think they'll get bumped down in priority.
Well, they will. You know, we come first. Hey, you know what it is? USA first, America first. That's my point. Including with airlines, including with Intel. You know, we made an Intel deal. You know that, right? We made about $40 billion on that. And someday Fox and Peter is going to talk about it. But we helped out Intel, and we ended up making $40 billion. So we're looking at Spirit, different kind of a thing. But we're looking at Spirit. If we can help them, we will. But we have to come first. We're first. It's America first.
The CEO of Anthropic came to meet Susie Wiles a week or two ago. What is the latest on your position on that company?
Well, only that they had a very good meeting.
You had the CENTCOM commander come in here yesterday. Was he briefing you on a different approach? Options. What kind of options? How would it look different?
There are options. I mean, do we want to go and just blast the hell out of them and finish him forever, or do we want to try and make a deal? I mean, those are the options.
Do you want to go blast the hell out of him?
I'd prefer not. On a human basis, I'd prefer not, but that's the option. Do we want to go in there heavy and just blast them away, or do we want to do something? They're a very disjointed unitship, as you can understand, Peter, very disjointed. I mean, they're not getting along with each other, and it puts us in a bad position. One group wants to make a certain deal, the other group wants to make a certain deal, including the hardliners. The hardliners want to make a deal, too. Why wouldn't they? They have no Navy, they have no Air Force, they have no anti-aircraft, they have no nothing.
There was some reporting this week that because of all the firepower required for Epic Fury, that there are people in the White House who are starting to worry about our inventory of bombs and missiles. Are you worried?
No, we have more than we've ever had, actually. Because all over the world we have inventory, and we can take that if we need it. But all over the world we have tremendous amounts of inventory, the best. For instance, we're stocked and locked and loaded. Right now, we have more than double what we had when this started. But, you know, we're all over the world. We're in many, many different countries, many different places, all packed up. Now, what happened is Biden came in like a stupid fool, and he gave a lot of what we had to Ukraine.
Right.
And $350 billion they spent. We don't do that. Everybody has to pay. The European Union pays us, but Biden didn't get money. He got nothing. But he gave a lot of the inventory away. Now, relatively speaking, it's not that, but it was a lot of inventory. He gave it to Ukraine. We built it up, but we have inventory from all over the world.
Are you going to go to the G7? The G7 is in France in June. Will you go to it?
Probably.
Mr. President, will the Lebanese and Israeli leaders be meeting here soon? Mr. President?
Britain and NATO.
What about NATO?
Did the king change your mind? King Charles?
No. The king and I had a great, he's just a great person. He's a high-quality person. I love the job he did in Congress. He actually got the Democrats to stand. He's a wonderful person. She's a wonderful lady, a wonderful queen, and we had a good time.
Mr. President, will the Lebanese and Israeli leaders be meeting here soon at the White House?
Yeah, they're going to be coming.
When you go to this is going to be your first big public event since somebody tried to kill you on Saturday. Do you feel safe going to something like this today?
I don't even think about it, Peter.
Do you still support a pardon for Pete Rose, sir?
Oh, I think Pete Rose was great. I think Pete Rose should have been in the Baseball Hall of Fame a long time ago. A long time ago, before his death. I think baseball did a great disservice by not respecting his achievements on the field. He was a great player. I knew him.
Mr. President, sir.
He was a great player.
Will you pardon him?
It seems like it would happen with your blockade, and you don't have to restart the war, or you don't have to make a deal. Is that correct? Are you happy with the blockade?
The blockade has been unbelievable. Powerful, 100%. It's been actually unbelievable. If we left right now, we had a great victory, but we're not doing that.
So you don't have to do
we're negotiating with them. Their teams are unbelievably disjointed, but we are negotiating.
Mr. President, the NASDAQ and the S&P 500 posted their biggest monthly gain since your first term, sir. Can you talk about what this means to you, the stock market performance, and do you believe that this is going to continue throughout the rest of your term?
Thank you. The stock market is hitting record numbers. We have more people working in the USA today than we've ever had working, as you know. It's in many ways. Now, when this war ends, gasoline and oil and everything is going to come tumbling down. But right now, as of this moment, the stock market has hit record highs. We have more people, again, working in the United States today than at any time in the history of our country. We are really doing well. Now, gasoline's high. Other prices are way down, but gasoline's high. But when this is over, you'll have a world without a nuclear weapon with Iran. If you allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon, the world would be in great jeopardy. So it's not going to happen. As soon as the war ends, the gasoline prices.
You're going down to the villages. You're going to be talking to our seniors. You've delivered for seniors, no tax on Social Security, most favored nations. Can you talk about everything that you've done to help our senior population, sir?
Will be well. No tax on tips. We have the largest tax cuts in the history of our country, also, and regulation cuts, and it's one of the reasons we're doing so well. So we have no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security for our seniors. We have no tax on overtime. And you know, something that nobody talks about, if you buy a car, if it's American-made, you get a deduction on interest for income tax purposes.
But Mr. President,
and by the way, very importantly, right over there is the greatest, you're going to have the greatest ballroom ever built. It's on time, on budget, and it's doing great.
And Mr. President, you're going to be hosting the first ever UFC fight at the White House in 45 days, sir. Can you preview the event? Can you talk about the card and what this will mean?
They have some of the greatest champions in the world. The arena, they're going to start building it over the next week. It's right here. It'll be about 5,000 seats. They'll have 100,000 people down by the ellipse with screens. And it's all free. It's going to be great. I got to go.
Thank you, sir.
More people working in the United States.
And that was Donald Trump there at the White House, and that now very, very familiar routine where he goes to get on Marine Force One, his helicopter, and he just does a quick question, and then he's there half an hour later still taking more questions. Mark White is with me in the studio. Two big lines came out of that. First, underlining the punishing deal with the European Union, 25% tariffs on all cars and trucks coming from the European Union, because he says they are not adhering to our plan. But Mark White, on the broader point, a president very much digging in against Iran on this blockade.
Yeah, I mean, what it says to me, in everything that he's saying, and, you know, his own inimitable style, is that they're content for the moment to continue with the blockade, to tighten the noose on Iran, because as long as Iran can't get its oil supplies out, it's not getting the money in. That is going to severely impacting Iran. And all the time he's saying, effectively, look, your deal is not good enough. You know, he's saying part of that is due to the fact that the decapitation strikes that America and Israel conducted have put them in a state of disarray. But he's saying to them, come, you know, agree to our terms or this blockade stays. He doesn't need to go back in, despite, you know, many news outlets building up to, we're going to get round two of an aerial campaign against Iran. I'm not sure we are, because the blockade in itself, I think, is proving quite effective in terms of the pressure that is being applied to Iran. I have to say, obviously, countries around the world are also feeling the effects of this as well, Martin.
Thank you very much there, Mark White. Donald Trump there still talking to the media, probably still there in about half an hour's time. But let's move swiftly onwards now to another story of huge importance. Britain is reportedly on high alert and ready to defend the Falkland Islands. That's according to the chief of the RAF. Sir Harv Smythe said Britain's defence of the territory was non-negotiable, with 4 Typhoon fighter jets currently stationed on the islands. Now let's speak with the Falklands veteran, the legend, great fan of the show, Simon Weston. Simon, welcome to the show. It's always a pleasure to have your company. Thank you for waiting patiently there as Donald Trump simply took the world's longest press conference, and it's Donald Trump, right? Simon Weston, you no doubt will be greatly heartened to hear the RAF is showing full mettle, ready to stand up and be counted if necessary.
Absolutely. This is an outcome of what Mr. Trump said last week. It was inevitable that there would be some sort of trumpet blowing and drum thumping from the Argentinians. But I don't think they were ever intending to attack. I don't think they're ever intended. They've only just received their fighter jets from, I think it's Denmark. They got 20 or 30. It takes a long time to get those pilots up to speed and to battle readiness. We've already got that, and we've got 4 of the most sophisticated fighter aircraft in the world. And we've got a wonderful fighting ship down there, and we've got 17, 18, maybe 2,000 service people down there. A lot different to what it was 44 years ago, when we only had 70 Marines, and that was your lot. It was very easy to walk in and arrest those guys, especially as they'd separated and some had gone to investigate what was happening in South Georgia. But it's a lot different now, and I don't think Argentina really wants to fight. All the words I've ever seen of Mr. Milei is that he's not interested in conflict. He wants to do this diplomatically. Well, we've heard from the government. They've said, no, absolutely not. We have to take them at their word for that. But there's a readiness. And even the islanders, they may have 40, 50, 60 people in the defence force, but they are supremely trained, and they all know the islands like the back of their hands, and the damage that can do if anybody did decide to land. But we have to accept as well, we have early warning systems in place. We would know if they took off. We have people that probably wandering around the streets of Argentina that are watching things. If anything like that was to happen, I'm sure we'd be aware. But you're absolutely correct, Martin. The fact is, the islanders will sleep safe in their beds tonight, knowing there is preparedness there for taking on whatever may come. But it's a lot different to what it was 44 years ago.
Simon Weston, thank you for giving me a patriotic fever towards the end of the show. It's a pleasure to have your company, as ever. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for waiting for Donald Trump. And thank you, as ever, for your service. Simon Weston, thank you very much indeed for joining us on the show today. Now, coming up next, we've got the Scots all doing the Highland fling after that man, Donald Trump, he bowed to the King and scrapped tariffs on Scotch whisky. We'll be having a booze session in the studio, me and Mark White. Meanwhile, though, if you're going anywhere, here's your travel weather.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Plenty of sunshine over the Canaries this weekend. Some heavy showers over northern Spain and some big downpours inland across Turkey also. We'll also see the potential for 1 or 2 showers heading to the Algarve on Saturday. The Balearics probably dry and sunny at this stage. Lots of sunshine for Italy on Saturday and for most of the Greek islands as well. There's that heavy rain across Turkey. That is pulling away. We'll see the cloud increasing in Rome through the course of the weekend and some showers continuing in Barcelona.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
1,000 of them go to a dance class every week. Now, campaigners say that dance helps to strengthen their core, their balance and their coordination, and prevent tremors, improve their gait, and most importantly, while the music is playing, it gives them back control of their bodies. And according to Charlotte Rassel, who is the CEO of Parkinson's UK, dance is a miracle.
I slur my speech a bit. I'm very self-conscious about it, but I used to hide Parkinson's, and now I celebrate it.
You're doing brilliantly, I have to say. Colin?
Yeah, I was diagnosed in 2017, and I get a hand tremor, so I sit on my hands sometimes and have body stiffness, anxiety and so on. But dance is brilliant.
Yeah.
Dance really, really helps.
It's brilliant.
Yeah,
OK,
yeah.
so both of you. I mean, there are all sorts of pharmaceuticals that you can take, obviously, and medical things that you can do for the condition. What made you, Colin, you have no background in dance at all, do you?
No.
What made you go to a dance class?
A friend of mine who I used to box with, who had Parkinson's, recommended the English National Ballet Social Engagement Programme, and it's really good. So from that, I was recommended, and I went along, and I was a little bit sceptical. I've never danced before in a formal sense. But then I met these guys, and I fell in love with dance.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely superb. It helps fight my motor and non-motor symptoms.
It does, yeah. Ian, what was
Social
your...
anxiety.
You had a background in dancing.
I did, yes. I used to work for the Royal Opera House, so it was not too big a step for me. I loved the family of being in a dance company. But for me, you asked about medicine. Dance is my medicine, it really is. I feel joy is my medicine, actually. And you don't feel joy very often. When you have Parkinson's, you feel depressed and anxious a lot because you don't have dopamine in your system.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Oh, looking forward to this bit. Donald Trump, that man, has pledged to scrap Scottish whisky tariffs after the King and Queen's state visit to the United States. He said they'd trip achieve what others could not. And the move follows months of lobbying to remove the 10% tariff, with the US remaining the single biggest, largest export market for Scotland's entire whisky industry. And I'm delighted to be joined in the studio by the buying director of the Whisky Exchange, Dawn Davis, and a genuine Scot who can't wait for a drink, that is Mark White. Dawn Davis, thank you for coming in. You've got some magnificent drinks for us here. But before we start sipping away, tell us how important this is for the industry. Tell us how important it is for Scotland.
It's huge. You know, the US is the largest export market for Scotland. It accounts for over 25%. And in the last year, since the tariffs have gone down, we've lost about 15% revenue, and it's worth $1 billion. So we've lost about £3 million a week to not being able, or to having less sales go into the US. So it's huge for the industry, because not only is Scotch fantastic, but it employs a lot of people across Scotland and even into the UK. So it's a really, really vital industry.
I want to pass one of these to Mark White before he swan dives over.
And Dawn, it's a big contributor to our exchequer as well, the industry.
You know, the industry, and everyone loves to drink, you know. I think that's part of the joy of it.
As a Philistine, I'm more of a beer man. What's this fancy glass? Is that a whiskey
You're
glass?
not a beer man, that's a shocker.
But you can drink beer and whiskey.
That's a whiskey glass.
It's the perfect way to drink it.
So you swirl it around, you can
swirl it around, give it a nose.
Ooh, beautiful. What's this one?
This one is the Inchmurn, which is from Loch Lomond.
Oh my God, it's lovely.
And you have one from Glendronach. And I'm drinking the King's Favourite.
Beautiful part of the Highlands.
Now, make sure if you're at home, don't be like Mark White. Drink responsibly. So tell us about what goes into. So why is it the King's favourite?
So he loves the Lefroy. He loves the smoky whiskey, and this is a big beastie smoky whiskey from Islay, which is one of the most sort of favourite areas of Scotland for a lot of drinkers.
Does it make me a Philistine if I put an ice cube in or a dash of water, or is that permissible?
You drink how you want to drink it. I think there should be no rules. It really is how you're best going to enjoy it.
That's really good, isn't it?
So, because I've got to admit, you know, it's blended whiskey that I will drink, normally with some soda water. I feel ashamed to be Scottish to say that, but hey, this is lovely too.
But you know, a highball's as exciting. So a long summer drink with soda and ice, as I said, there's no rules. Coca-Cola and a smoky whiskey, smoky cokey, fantastic.
So it was garbling. That's absolutely magnificent.
Yeah, it's a lovely wee dram, and you know, and I think that's the whole point. It's a great industry, and it's important to support it.
Isn't it so magnificent? The King has just gone and just saved the day. The King has steamed in and done majestic holy work for Scotland.
You know what? He's done what everyone else couldn't do, and we've got to give him credit for that. So I think we should always raise a glass to him.
Raise a glass. Here to the King, here to Scotland. Up next is Jubes and Co. Tonight is Dawn Neeson. All the very best. Have a great weekend. I'll see you on Monday. Cheers, Mark.
Cheers. Cheers.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, the long weekend is almost here. Welcome along to your latest weather update from the Met Office on GB News. For many, it'll be a dry and a bright day tomorrow. There will be a few showers around, particularly across parts of the north, and then later in the day, some heavier rain coming up from the south. We've replaced high pressure with low pressure. Been gradually increasing the cloud from the west through the day today. It's still pretty warm out there across eastern areas. One or two thunderstorms rumbling away, and some showery rain for northern England and eastern Scotland, clearing out into the North Sea. The potential for one or two heavy showers through the night across Kent and parts of East Anglia too, but many places will become dry overnight and much milder than many nights have been through this week, with some towns and cities staying in double digits. A bit of a grey start to Saturday, but by and large a dry start, and most of England and Wales will have most of the day dry, but across Scotland and Northern Ireland we'll see increasing chance of some showery rain, initially across the north of Scotland, but through the morning some showers developing further south too, and the showers becoming more widespread across Northern Ireland as we go through the morning also. The odd shower here and there across England and Wales, but most here will have a dry Saturday morning, and certainly for many central and eastern parts it'll stay that way as well. Perhaps a bit misty, murky, quite a bit of cloud around, but we'll see some bright or sunny spells coming through, particularly over eastern parts of England. But we do need to watch this zone of thundery showers working up into southern counties of England as we go into the afternoon. At the same time, the showers becoming more widespread over Scotland, Northern Ireland, perhaps the odd one in West Wales too. But still quite warm in the east, temperatures getting into the low 20s here, but generally it will turn cooler as we go through the long weekend. We're going to see some heavier downpours spreading up across the south on Saturday evening. Bear that in mind if you are heading out. Haven't seen much rain recently. This could, as I say, be really quite heavy, quite widespread for Sunday, but turning a bit drier as we go into Monday, but also through this weekend turning a little chillier. Goodbye.
Today,